talking about SNL, the history, the mysteries, and all the hot impressions in between, breaking down all the numbers as well. In your favorite sketches with special guests, it's on the Saturday Night Network.
Welcome on in, everybody, to the Saturday Night Network for another edition of our Feedback Show, coming to you at the end of March 2026. We talk about everything that happened in SNL US and SNL UK this past month. My name is Jon Schneider from the SNN. Very excited to be back with you here to wrap things up from the month and catch up with some of our friends who listen to the show. Joining us here tonight is the great Andrew Haynes. Haynes, how are you?
I'm awesome, man. Just got back from a weekend at the beach, just enjoying the spring weather. It's been very temperate here in North Carolina. I don't know how it's been where you are, but it's been a nice spring. Sometimes it comes on too hot down here. We're easing into it. It's been nice.
Yeah, if you're easing into it, we're really easing into it up here, but it'll happen one day soon. It was a nicer day today, so finally getting back there. Of course, nicer days means the end of SNL for the season, which is always very sad, but it's really fun to see what SNL will do as they ramp up towards the end of their season. Believe it or not, it's not just the end of a season, it's also the start of another season, because we just started SNL UK. So tonight we're going to be talking about both SNL US and SNL UK. And just to recap what's happened since we last got together for a feedback show, we had Heated Rivalries Connor Storrie host the show. Huge night, really like a big deal. A lot of people tuning in that don't normally check out the show. We got Hudson Williams making a cameo. It was a big night for Saturday Night Live. Then we had Ryan Gosling host the show, coming back for his fourth time. A lot of good, creative, fun sketches. Happy to get Ryan back in the building. And then Harry Styles came in for double duty, his second time performing as a double duty host and musical guest. And then we premiered SNL UK Across the Pond with Tina Fey making her mark on the show for the first time over there. And then Jamie Dornan hosted SNL UK this past weekend. So we did recaps of all of those shows over the last month. A lot of podcast coverage coming to you. And I'm very excited, Haynes, to hear how you feel about where we are in SNL land right now.
I mean, listen, we're coming off a pretty great little run. I think we all agree that Connor Storrie was fantastic. The Ryan Gosling episode was just, beaming with breaking joy that they really leaned into, that we got to kind of embrace in a positive way. And Harry Styles is just such a fan favorite. This was a really good run of shows. And then, of course, getting to experience this whole new but not completely new thing with SNLK, which certainly does, just in the 2 episodes we've seen so far, it's got a little bit of a slightly different vibe, even though it's very similar, obviously, in a lot of ways. It's as if a different person is making the same dish. Like your grandmother's always made this dish, you love this dish, it'll always be one of your favorite dishes. Now someone else is making it. It's a little different. It's still very good. It's a little different.
I agree. It's like to play off your analogy. It's kind of like you were passed down a recipe and you're just missing maybe one ingredient, and you're like, okay, I think this is how Grandma used to do this, and you make it, and it looks kind of different. And I think that they definitely found a little bit more of a British flavor this past weekend. We talked about that on our after show. So I'm sure we're going to be getting into the comparisons between US and UK. We had a lot of great questions that were sent in to us, both on social media and in the form that we put out. And of course, we'll invite our patrons who will be coming on with us every about 15 minutes to ask us anything they would like about this past month of Saturday Night Live. We also have some great episodes coming up, so we can preview what we may see starting this weekend in the US with the incredible pairing of Jack Black and Jack White. So that will be happening this weekend. Then we found out that Coleman Domingo is going to be hosting the following weekend. So that will be very exciting with musical guest Anitta. So first Brazilian, I think, to ever headline Saturday Night Live. So SNL really going global right now. And then in the UK, we have Riz Ahmed hosting this weekend with music from Kasabian. And then the following week, there will be an SNL SNL episode that is not been announced who the headliners are yet for the UK. So a lot coming up there. There'll be another UK episode towards the end of April. So it's going to be a very exciting month here to talk through. And joining us first, Haynes, is a patron that I don't believe we have had on the show before. I'm pretty sure they're from the UK. So I'm going to bring them in. You'll tell me if I'm wrong. But Rich is here to join us to kick things off. Rich, how are you?
Hey guys, long time, first time, and it is 1:45 in the morning. I have work in the morning, which is why I was like, earliest time slot, please. Just checking, you guys can be okay, right?
We can.
Awesome. I feel like kind of a traitor for not wanting to talk only about SNL UK, but
No, you can talk about whatever you want, but it's really it's great to meet you.
Yeah, sure. Because I've got to say, it was I feel like somebody from the UK at some point has got to say, I expected this to be perfect, and it's been great the entire time through. We were so cynical, like we are deeply cynical about everything in this country, obviously, yeah, people in the UK have a really weird relationship with the American SNL because we pretty much only get it through YouTube.
Okay.
And let's just say the clips that go viral, I mean, you guys, if anyone's going to be looking at the viewership figures, it's going to be you guys. It's the sketches where everyone breaks and it all goes wrong, which are hilarious, but kind of also imply that SNL's at its best when things aren't going to plan, which I'm sure is exactly how Lorne wants it to be perceived. Like the number of times I've heard that Beavis and Butthead is people's favorite sketch. And I'm like, if that sketch had gone to plan, it would not be.
Right.
No one would be talking about it now. It's only because it broke Heidi that sketch is so legendary. And then, you know, a lot of like the political cold opens, which are, you know, they're rough. Like there's a lot of good one-liners, but structurally, you know, if you're maybe kind of over the orange man stupid humor, like you kind of, it's very easy to think that's all they're doing. So I was definitely nervous when SNL UK started the first episode, and the very first thing was someone doing a Keir Starmer impression. And you know, as I know your correspondents have explained, we kind of don't know what to make of our prime minister right now. We don't know if he's going to be prime minister in a month. It looked a few weeks ago like he might be out. It looks like he's weathered that storm. Oh yeah, there was the Mandelson situation, which was satirized in the Prince Andrew sketch the other day. Yeah, there were calls for him to resign, and I think the only reasons that hasn't happened is no one really wants to take over that badly. We've gone through, considering how America seems to be incapable of getting rid of an unpopular president, we get rid of prime ministers very readily, because all you need is enough pressure from other ministers. The prime minister is really just like, is decided within the party. Like we don't vote on like, this is who the prime minister is.
Right.
You vote for who represents your constituency. So it's sort of like the American equivalent. And John, I know you're Canadian. The American,
I was gonna say we do the same thing here in Canada, so that's very similar.
It was more parliamentary. Where so for people in the US to understand, it would be like, imagine if of the Congress members within a party, if they'd pre-chosen who their leader was, and then that was, if they win their seats, then they become the president. So it is.
That makes sense.
It's very different in that sense. So really, and then the cabinet is just decided from people who won their seats, and they don't necessarily need to be particularly experienced or qualified in that department. And so we get a lot of career politicians running departments who they're always going to be unpopular. You know, we replace people constantly. By season 2, yeah.
Can I ask you? I would love to know, how, it's, I was under the impression, because I believe I've seen you in the chat or making a lot of comments before, and it's so great
Yeah,
to
yeah.
finally meet face to face.
Oh yeah, no,
You've been a fan of Saturday Night Live from way before SNL UK started.
oh
So
yeah, yeah.
has that colored your perception of the show? Like, are you evaluating it being this absolute expert, or are you treating it as a new thing?
I was kind of going in expecting it to be more similar than it's been. I think I've seen like the interviews you guys have done and the like your content on SNL UK and the lead up put my fears at rest a bit. That I thought it might end up being a bit of a carbon copy, and I was really pleased to see, like, it feels like they've gone out of like, what are the sketches that we want to do, what are the characters that it feels very cast driven to me. Like, it hasn't even been particularly host driven.
Yeah.
Like, Jamie Dornan was great, but it never felt like they were really playing into, nothing in it reminded me of a Jamie Dornan movie. It didn't feel like they were doing the obligatory 50 Shades of Grey content. And like, similar with Tina, like, they didn't get her to redo Sarah Palin or anything. It felt like new Tina content. And if they can continue that and really make it feel like this is what these very talented new comedians want to talk about in British culture and in global politics and all of these other things, and sometimes just really silly, gross stuff like Jamie Dornan sticking testicles to his hips, which I mean, I know
you would
you
never
guys
see that on the US, and I thought that was like,
it's great seeing you guys be a little bit scandalized, because I was like, yep, this is we have a very distinct thing called the watershed, which is after 9 p.m. pretty much anything goes. So SNL UK airs at a point when they can pretty much put whatever. I think they are probably putting the brakes on putting too much in, because it is going to affect like what you can monetize online and what you can share internationally. It's almost like we're holding back a little bit on how dark we'd want to go.
Well, that was a huge question for me, Rich, though, because I knew that SNL UK hasn't been posting all the sketches to YouTube, so I figured like this one probably isn't going to make it over there. But it seems that in the Peacock version that the United States is getting and the Crave version that airs in Canada, they kept that sketch perfectly intact. So because it was streaming, they were able to do that. But I was so thrown off by it in that I'm just not used to seeing something so visually gross that I was like,
when it's foreign, it's cultural. You know, it's like you're like, look at this European art piece.
It's educational. That's why Tina Fey's parents were showing it to her, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Tina clearly needs to educate herself, as we know.
Right.
Yes.
Rich, can I ask you this?
Yeah.
You talk about just the kind of the natural cynicism, that you all might bring to this. Did you come away feeling less critical than you expected to?
Oh yeah, I was. But so both episodes, I watched the first one the morning after, because I couldn't watch it live, and then the Dornan one I watched live, and both times I had a good lot of laughs. I really enjoyed it. I think the cast, because there's 11 in the cast, is there 11 or 12 people?
11.
Like, I feel like they've all, across the two episodes, all had like a pretty good showcase. It seems that there are definitely standouts. There were folks who were like, people like George Fouracres was very prominent in episode 1, and then it seemed like Annabelle really came into her own in episode 2, and Jack also had a really good episode 2. I'm still learning their names, but it feels like if I looked at all of them, I would recognize them all after only 2 hours of sketches, which I mean, compared to the US version, when they get new people in a season, like, it takes a while for them to really I mean, even like people like Jeremy this year, it took a while.
Yeah, Rich, we haven't seen this in probably 40 years, really, where they've had a complete just refresh, restart. There's always been some sort of hierarchy or seniority where the new people have to give up time to other people. And this is just a complete, all right, whoever has the best stuff, you're going to get on. And that is so much fun to watch.
and we're going to just have to see how things develop in future seasons. Like, are they going to have a bit of a revolving door? Like, do we know what kind of contract these guys are on? Like,
I think
is it
they're
going to
all
be like,
locked in for this first 8 episode series, I guess, as you guys call it. And then everything is completely up in the air after that. So it's probably just if the show gets renewed, then they're going to decide who they want to keep or stick around or not. I assume they're treating the show. I mean, at least that's what Longman told me, that they're treating the show the same way that they do in the US. So there is a chance that they won't bring everybody back. And, that's part of the reason why I think, the numbers portion of the show and our coverage might be a little bit tougher for the UK audience to get like wrap their minds around versus the US, because you guys haven't experienced turnover in the way that we do. So I know, Rich, I've seen you, I think, comment on some of our metric shows that we've done before by the numbers. I'm curious for you, like, does that play well with this audience? And do you think that it'll continue to find its way into the UK as we're trying to build over there?
I mean, you're gonna have to change which sports you make analogies to, because
Sure.
when you guys talk about baseball, I have no idea. Like, it means nothing. I think quite a few people in Britain got into the Super Bowl, and then suddenly there's American football fans, but I don't think any of them actually follow the game that like between Super Bowls. But you've got to. I mean, they've got 11 cast members. That's the same as you have on a football team. So, and that's real football. So kind of fix those analogies. But yeah, the whole idea of like it, it's an ensemble cast, and you're kind of looking at the metrics that you guys do, which it's so impressive that you put those out like days after it airs, with the exact screen time counts, like seeing those bars go up and down. I am a bit of a stats guy on
Cool.
but my background's in theater. I do like a lot of community theater work. So the whole idea that like sometimes this person is the main focus and this person slips into the ensemble, and that kind of vying for attention, how somebody can be like a show stealer but they only really get like a minute's worth of material, but they're the most memorable. And like your MVP isn't necessarily the person who gets the most moments. Like we're just as competitive as anyone else on that front. I think that does engage, but
that's good to know.
We'll see how it goes with whether they get into having the repertory versus featured players, and like, because that's something that SNL US developed over the course of decades, really, like having those tiers come and go. And now we've got this, like, it's 2 years and then you become rep. Like, it'll be interesting to see if we do those, because they're going to have different actors equity standards, and all those kind of things to figure out behind the scenes. So it's going to be
following
interesting. I hope they get that many seasons for these things to become tradition. It'll be interesting.
So far, so good. It seems like everything is going great. Rich, we'll have a couple more minutes with you. Is there anything else you wanted to ask Haynes or I while you're
here? I think I would just like to know, because one thing that a few of my friends who are not really SNL people, but they've been excited about, is a lot of my friends are really into Dropout, and so Jeremy Culhane has been a very big signing. One of my friends, I message her like after I watch every episode on a Sunday morning with Jeremy Watch, and I say, like, basically, these are the highlights of Jeremy. If you just want to see Jeremy, this is what to look up. And obviously, Feast or Famine. Like, sometimes you get to Tucker Carlson, sometimes he gets one line. Featured player, he's still starting out. And I think I'd just like to ask if, like, do you think that kind of going to those other sort of branches of the internet is maybe a good place for them to be doing their recruiting going forward, because I think they still kind of, it's invite only for auditions in SNL US, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I think Jeremy is certainly a success case. We'll see what happens moving forward, but I think I'm okay with them finding new ways to find cast members, as long as they have a more of a traditional sketch background, I feel like the stand-up thing, unless we're building a cast full of stand-ups, it doesn't really work. So I think that Jeremy is a good case there. I think what they tried with Cam isn't working as well. So I think that Dropout is a great avenue for them to go. Haynes, do you want to say anything else about that?
Well, just that something that Rich was just talking about a second ago, maybe people who aren't getting a ton of screen time, but really shine when they do. Even though, most of the time, Jeremy's very often just getting like a line or two in a sketch. I do feel like he's just always landing really well. And he's just, I'm just seeing someone who I think we're going to see a lot more investment in Jeremy in the future. So if like you were saying, if we can point to that as an example, then I think it's pretty healthy and just an intelligent move to keep kind of pulling from that direction.
Yeah. Rich, great question. So great to hear from you. Don't be a stranger and come on back, because we love getting the UK perspective on everything that's happening.
I mean, you're doing the UK chats during hours that I'm supposed to be awake, which I appreciate. So, I know you've got some UK correspondents, but, let me know if you need any more.
Of course. Appreciate you so much. So I hope
Thanks
you
for staying up
Thank you for staying up late. Yeah, appreciate you, buddy. Talk soon.
Cheers, guys.
All right, great start to our show here tonight. Thank you, Rich, for joining us. Let's bring in our next set of correspondents that will be hanging out with us here this evening. And first up, we got my man Christian is here. Christian, how are you, buddy?
I'm good. You guys can hear me? All good?
Yeah, I can hear you great. Thanks for joining us. Cool. We're going to also bring in our friend Will is here. Will, how are you?
Doing great, John. How's it going?
Good. Great to see both of you. It's such a pleasure to have you on. Will, what's on your mind? How are you?
I'm doing well. I mean, I've like many of everyone here and in the chat, I've been enjoying the season. Excited for them to come back to finish off the season strong with these last 5 episodes or so. It's been really exciting to see how the show's developed and kind of now getting a full picture of how things have looked season 51 versus all the celebration and pomp and circumstance around 50. It's kind of nice to see how the show is continuing and how it's adjusted over the course of the year. So yeah, excited to be here.
Yeah, it's a really great month for sure. Christian, how about you? What's on your mind with everything that's happening in SNL right now?
I am good. It feels like it's been a long time since the Connor Storrie episode, because when I saw the thumbnail for it, I was like, man, that was this last stretch of episodes. So I was like, just like a lot has happened over the last 4 weeks, something like that. So yeah, it's been really crazy. It's been really fun seeing the UK perspective as well. So it's been really fun digging into that, and I've been watching it live as well. And the differences between UK TV and American TV have been pretty interesting as well, especially with some of the ways that the sketches transition and stuff. So that's been interesting as well.
Yeah, has that been your favorite part that you've seen, Christian? Just the way that they've been structuring some of the show over there in the UK?
Yeah, there's been I think the transitioning in from a sketch into the musical performances. I've seen a lot of people really enjoying that. It's just a really different flavor. Obviously, there's some stuff that U.S. television just can't do, with the cursing and stuff like that. I was curious if you guys have seen anything in the first 2 episodes outside of the stuff that you just can't bring over, like the cursing, that you'd like to see implemented more in with the U.S. cast and the U.S. seasons moving forward.
Haynes, you want to take this?
Well, I'll tell you what, if we had the same standards over here that they do in the UK, Sarah Sherman would run the show. It would be so disgusting and gory and just prosthetics, falling off all over the place. So that was seeing some of the stuff that they do like that, like with the testicles on the body and just the extremeness of, the faces getting carved up, by Paddington Bear and stuff. That was extreme. I'm not saying that I would want everything to be that, but it's nice to obviously the more variety, the wider you can spread your show as far as that, the type of stuff that you can do. That's always exciting. Just like kind of Tina Fey touched on, or Michael Cera really touched on with her, if we were, just having like really dirty language all the time, it becomes kind of cheap and throwaway. But it's nice when you can sprinkle it in. So, maybe that stuff is not exciting for folks in the UK, but it feels very fresh, coming off, the kind of content that we get to consume regularly.
I think the main thing that I have loved maybe the most about these two episodes that is so easy for the US to implement is that they go from cold open to monologue to commercial. Not commercial like regular commercials, like SNL commercials. And it is such an old school thing that the show used to do over here that I wish they would go back to, because it gives such a jolt. I find going to commercial, regular commercial after the monologue to be kind of a boring trope that they do, like the stick around and we'll be right back. And then I feel like there's just so much anticipation and build up to this first sketch, which can be fun. But them going into the Underage commercial in the first episode or the British pub thing in the second episode, for me, gave me this like boost of energy that made me so excited for the rest of the night that I really would love them to go back to that. So that's like the number one thing that I noticed that I think would be great to see back over here. Will, do you have any questions or anything you want to talk about from this past month of Saturday Night Live?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to hear everyone's rankings or how you felt about all the hosts and the episodes we've had overall in terms of how you'd rank what we just saw with Connor Storrie, Gosling, and Styles. And then just added a question too about what we're about to see, but would love to hear your favorite and why you like those episodes or what stood out for you.
Sure. So do you want us to rank the hosts or the episodes? Because I get very clinical about this stuff.
Yes, that's a good way to discern. I'd say the episodes overall.
Yeah, so that's interesting. I think that I felt like the Gosling episode was the best of the bunch. I said that on a podcast at some point, and people in the chat were ready to like go at me and be like, no, it was Connor Stories. But I don't know. I just feel like the Gosling episode felt really creative and inspired. And I really feel like it came together exactly what I was hoping for. Like, would it have been nice to see Beavis and Butthead too? I think so. But overall, if it wasn't working in dress, then I can understand it. And I hope they give us that rough cut one day. So I'd probably go Gosling. I would then go Connor Storrie, who I thought was super game and really just, it was a really fun episode, despite all the wooing and hype. And then I'd go Harry Styles, who I feel like, again, didn't meet expectations, probably like was fine, but really one of the more underused hosts of the season. And yeah, it felt like they were running out of steam a little bit in that episode. Christian, do you have a ranking for the past month of US SNL?
Just to play devil's advocate, because I think I would agree with yours. I would put Connor's first, mainly off of the fact of I think he had a lot more of like the surprise factor and being this super charismatic game host. Even if I was someone who I was expecting a lot from it because I'd seen him in some interviews or whatever, but he really felt like a guy who just instantly came in and clicked with his cast. Seemed like a guy, as long as either his career keeps going or heated rivalry keeps growing, is a guy who can come back 2, 3, 4 times and just kind of constantly knock it out of the park. Ryan Gosling, I agree with. I think it was great as well, but you kind of expect it at this point with Gosling. He's kind of like this. I think I had asked it in the Discord. Is he like maybe the most like iconic of the last host of the last like 15 years or so, or at least the most viral? I feel like it would be Gosling.
Yeah, you got to think it's like him or I mean Mulaney. You got to put on that list for coming back so many times in a row and sort of being that modern host that they just turn to. But yeah, as far as like to your point, having sketches that go consistently viral when he's on the show, I think in modern times he's probably the guy.
Yeah, and then Harry Styles, yeah, I would have at the bottom as well. He is a pretty solid host. Again, a guy who you can probably use a lot more. Especially, it seemed like there wasn't a lot of singing, which you would expect more of with Harry Styles. But like nothing close to like my least favorite of the season. It's probably more of a middling episode, which I think kind of shows the quality overall of the season. If that's like a lower end kind of episode.
Haynes, it feels like the thing about the Gosling episode is that it's kind of polarizing. If you are very anti-breaking, then you're not going to love it. But if you're okay with them playing with the format a bit, which I was, then you may consider putting that at the top of your rankings.
So, and here's the thing, but normally we see that. So even if you have a problem with the breaking, we're seeing that breaking as a breakdown within the sketch. And this is something that like they leaned into so hard. I mean, obviously you know that Ryan Gosling is a guy that's going to break, but the way that listen, they let him play around a lot, in the Cyclops sketch. There's a lot of messing around there, which led to a lot of good laughs. And then obviously, changing the cards, the letters that they were reading in that classroom sketch was just a great way to lean into it. I really enjoyed that episode a lot, but not completely because of the breaking. I love that they leaned into that. And listen, that classroom sketch will still absolutely go down as a huge favorite of mine. But the sketches in general just worked for me. It was a really fun episode. I will say, I thought Connor Storrie was a better host. And as many times as we've seen Ryan Gosling, and he's good, but like Connor Storrie was just like, he delivered all his lines so well. He was so present in every sketch. I just thought he did a really excellent job as a host. But if we're talking about the overall episode, I would say maybe the grouping of sketches and the way that they landed together, the writing and the arrangement of the different types of sketches. I thought it was a really well-rounded episode, even though there's still some slight misses. The Goo Goo Man sketch, I felt left a little bit to be desired, even though it had some funny bits. So listen, I kind of fall in line with really, I just really like the Gosling episode a lot, but I think it goes beyond the breaking. I think it's not just because of the breaking. And if we were ranking hosts, I would say I was most impressed with Connor Storrie.
I think I would agree with that too. I know it's not exactly what you asked, Will, but I say that I think that Connor's a host for his first time was probably more impressive than what we got from Ryan in his fourth time. But it just felt like a really Ryan episode. He felt comfortable there. I think it was, if you're going to rank the Gosling episodes, it's probably not near the top of them, but it was still a very solid outing from him. And I'll throw the question back at you, Will. How would you rank the past month of SNL US?
I would actually rank the episodes the same way you did, John. And I agree with everyone here. I think Connor Storrie was the best host. It's always nice to have someone that hosts for the first time that's genuinely excited to be there and does a great job. And so I thought that he was the best host. But I say him, Gosling, and Styles. But I did think that the Gosling episode overall, because of the creativity, them having fun and leaning into those things and some of the things they tried that just haven't been seen, I think was really nice to see. So that's kind of how I'd rank episode and host.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Oh, Will, always great to hear from you, buddy. Appreciate you coming.
Yeah, good to see you too, my friend. Yeah,
great to see you.
Good to see Haynes.
Thanks for the continued support. And Christian, great commentary as well. Always great seeing you.
Yep. See y'all next time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for the content. You guys take care.
Appreciate you. Talk soon. All right, Haynes, let's keep this show going. We got two amazing patrons joining us right now. Let's bring in Deej is here. Deej, how are you? Deej, you're on mute, so let's just unmute yourself on StreamYard, and then we can get you into the show.
Okay.
Deej, we got you?
Hi. Hello?
Hello.
Yep, I'm unmuted. Hi, yes. I'm about as well as can be expected.
Good. Glad to hear that. Well, welcome on in to the show. I'm going to bring in Scott, who's going to join us as well. Hey, Scott.
Hey,
Hi,
how you
Scott.
doing?
Good. Great to see you,
Good to
Scott.
see you, Dee.
Good to see you too, Scott.
You both.
And Andrew, lovely, as always. And John.
Hey there, everybody.
I love
Always
everybody
a
in the
pleasure.
SNN.
Yes. Love you guys too. Happy to have you on the show. Deej, I'll start with you. How are you feeling right now about Saturday Night Live? And is there anything you want to talk about on the show with Haynes and I?
Well, Saturday Night Live UK. I'm lucky enough that I could watch it on CTV comedy before SNL. So I'm gonna have like you this weekend. I'm gonna have a double SNL kind of day. But the thing I was thinking of is we have someone from English Canada. You're in Montreal, and then Americans. Do you think that because Canadians have a very similar sense of humor to the UK and being part of the Commonwealth, which I love the shout out, do you think that gives us an advantage to making more sense out of the British comedy?
I don't know. I mean, that's a tough one. I don't know that Canadians necessarily have like a leg up on Americans as far as understanding the references or relating to them over there, because I mean, besides the fact that, I grew up knowing that Canada was, has such a, important relationship with the UK, it hasn't like affected me in my daily life very much. So I don't I didn't have that like comedy connection. And I feel like maybe I'm not like the greatest Canadian to be able to answer this question because I am so Americanized due to my connections to pop culture in the US and covering like, you know, one of the quintessential American shows. So I don't know that I feel that necessarily, Deej, but maybe that's the experience of other Canadians out there. Is that something that you feel?
I do actually, and because like being in Quebec is its own separate little thing altogether. So you're not sure how much other
Maybe,
stuff
yeah.
really penetrates from out there. And I've been exposed to probably pop culture from both sides of the border for many, many years because I'm old. And I think it might be also be a generational thing because when I was growing up watching TV in the 70s and 80s, we got a lot of British stuff like On the Buses and Doctor in the House, all these really old school, and even today we still get good exposure to the UK. And there's a lot more because I think because I kind of grew up with that, maybe not so much these days, but since it's a more worldwide audience, you would think that more UK kind of humor would get into the cultural thing. But the one thing I do believe is that the UK.
Oh, you did mute yourself, so I just want to make sure we could still hear you. It could be that your mic unplugged, and if you take a second to get that back going, in the meantime, I can go over to.
That was my cat.
Okay, no problem.
That
We
was
love
my
cats.
cat. Yes. So what was I saying? Yes.
Yeah, you were just saying about your connection to British
yes.
culture.
Yes, that the UK has a very long history, as much as the US and Canada does, with sketch comedy. So I had every faith that they would blow this out of the water. I've loved both episodes, and loving Jack and who's the guy we had the last 15 minutes with? I'm still getting the names going. But anyway,
George.
Yes, George and Jack so far are really, really doing it for me.
Yeah, look, it's a great point. It's something that I'm sure other people can relate to. Maybe it's a little bit generational where I didn't necessarily grow up with the British comedies that maybe other Canadians did. You know, I know that there was SNL Quebec here. I'm Anglophone, not Francophone. So I basically like learned some things through osmosis for SNL Quebec, but I'm sure that there was things that maybe would have connected with me more even from that than SNL UK. But Scott, I know that you are also, I believe you're also covering SNL UK on your Substack. So I want to know like how you're feeling about the last month of SNL. And if
at least the host stuff. I haven't quite, I haven't done episode reviews, but I'll be covering the hosting and the headlining. I was wondering when it was originally 6 episodes, was episode 4 going to be part of the first group, or was that rejiggered when the 2-episode extension happened?
I actually don't know. I think that they were I'm being completely honest. My assumption, because I was asking these questions, and I think I left it in the interview that I did with James Longman. I asked him what the schedule is, and he's like, hey, we're still working it out with the network. And that was because I think they were trying to get that extension from 6 to 8. I was under the impression that they were going to do 6 in a row to do this whole season when it was 6. And now they're not doing 8 in a row. Now they're going to do 4 and then a week off. And then
I mean, even when the one time the US did it, we were like, that's ludicrous, but okay. But 8 was never going to be.
Yeah, I don't think they were ever going to do 8 in a row. I think that would I think the entire cast of SNL UK would burst into flames by the end of the 7th week. Yes. But honestly, I'm really enjoying what I'm seeing from this show through 2 weeks. Scott, are you enjoying it as well?
Oh yeah, certainly. I realized I had stopped my Dornan watch like most of the way. It was like after the second musical performance, so I went back like shortly before joining the room to get that last sketch in before showtime. And
Yes.
yeah, I could see why people were like, yeah, that would have been the likelihood of that being in a US show would have been maybe 1%.
Yeah, it wouldn't have happened. That it physically pained me to watch that sketch, and then to watch it a second time was I was like, but anyways, I'm glad it happened. One of our questions that we got from our mailbag, because it sort of jumps off from the question that Deej asked, was from our friend Tran, who asks, which SNL UK cast member impresses you the most? So I figured it's a good time to take this here because Deej, you said that you're really impressed by Jack and by George. Haynes, is there a cast member of the 11 that we've seen that has really been standing out to you?
Well, yeah, I mean, Jack Shep is coming on really strong, I think. He was great in several things. He was good in the Prince Andrew sketch. He was great as Princess Di. Loved him in the Beans Brothers. So I feel like he's someone they're leaning on right now. He's most likely going to be a star of sorts. But I will tell you, I mean, Annabelle Marlowe obviously crushed leading in that Warehouse Worker musical. I mean, she was absolutely outstanding in that. So those are just the quick thoughts off the top of my head. Absolutely ones that I was noticing early.
Yeah, I had the same thought, which was that they put Annabelle in the promo with Tina Fey for that first week, where she mentions she's a big SNL fan. She used to have an SNL fan account, which was really great. And then they sort of hid her for week one, but we got everything we could possibly get from her in week number 2. And I'm curious if, we're going to feel like this show highlights a different person every week, or eventually the patterns will emerge where we're always going to get a lot of Jack. We're always going to get a lot of Annabelle, let's say. Like, what will happen as the show continues? Scott, who is really standing out for you?
I think I have to say Hamid.
Okay.
Yeah, but between the press junket, just his presence was, he comes off really friendly and charming, and
yeah, that's for sure. He has a big presence.
Really likable.
He does. Really big presence, really like a big, voice that he brings to something. It really like makes you look at the screen because he just has that gravitas when he's speaking that I feel like really works for him. So I'm curious, if we're going to get another sketch from him this week where he's anchoring it the way that we had in week number 1. Deej, I know that you're always focusing on the women of SNL.
Yes.
So for, you mentioned George, you mentioned Jack, Annabelle is an obvious one here, but are there any other women of the show that are really standing out to you in the UK?
Definitely. Ayade, she I haven't said something a lot, but from what I've seen, especially in the last sketch with the cold open this week, I love her to death.
Oh yeah, and Weekend Update too.
Yeah. Oh yes. Yes. And the Weekend Update. Oh my God, Celeste, I believe is the co-host. Her and her chemistry
Anya.
with Pat. Anya and Patty's chemistry was instant, and I got a big crush on Patty right now too because he has such great eyes. But I want to see more from the ladies. We're actually going to do a Ladies of SNL show coming up for the next off week area. But so far, with all the ladies that we've seen, they're definitely holding their own, and they just have to get. It doesn't matter if they're all. I think everyone's going to get their chance to shine. But my favorite, aside from Eva, my other favorite this week was Ayade, and I just love her energy, and she just brings a lot of great stuff to it.
Yeah, and she got cut from Update week number 1, and the fact that she could bring back and be so confident in her performance in week number 2, again, imagine like you're on the first show, you have your big moment, it gets cut at dress, you're like, you're telling all your family, like, I'm going to be on Update, and then we do finally get it in week 2, which was fantastic. So I was really happy for Ayade to have that moment on the show. Scott, you have that Patty look going on right now. I love it with the stash and everything like that. Is that an ode to your new favorite Weekend Update that we have in the UK?
No, but I also think that Anya has like that sturdy confidence that I'm not sure Cecily had when she was anchor, and probably why. And she was obviously more comfortable doing characters for Update, and that's why she stepped down. And we got Jay, and I thought that was pretty nice to see.
I'll be curious if we end up getting Anya and more things and Patty and more. I mean, Patty was very much involved in that Jules Holland sketch that we had this week. I'm really interested to see if we're going to end up having them in more sketches moving forward. But Deej, always a pleasure to get to hear from you. Tell the listeners where they can check out everything you got going on.
Okay, well, the episode that's coming out this week for Saturday Night Ladies is all about Vanessa Bayer, who is currently in the Scrubs reboot. And I found out recently it was actually filmed in my part of the country, and I was like, oh my god, Vanessa Bayer was in my town for that long. And for the following week, we're on the documentary Now side of We Heart Hater, where we're going to be featuring The Eye Doesn't Lie. But after I'm done here tonight, that's when I'm getting back to editing on the episode coming out on Wednesday.
Amazing. Can't wait to listen. And Scott, tell everybody where they can check out what you got going on with your Substack.
My Substack is on screen, and tonight I've got the Supergirl trailer tomorrow teaser article right about coming up, and I'll have the trailer coverage tomorrow, as well as the Netflix live action Avatar season 2 release date is going to be announced tomorrow. And there's also another Masters of the Universe trailer coming tomorrow. It's going to be quite something it's going to be quite a busy day.
Well, I'm excited to read that, Scott. So thank you for joining us here tonight. Thank you, Deej. Appreciate you both. And we'll keep this train running. Haynes, so much fun that we're having here tonight. How you doing?
Absolutely. Listen, just great, to have some of these folks on that I haven't gotten to speak with before, and just great to see, old friends from the community. So very much looking forward to the next, everybody else we got coming up tonight.
All right. Well, let's bring a couple more of our friends in right now. So let's bring back Fred to the show. Fred, how are you?
Doing well. Great to see you both, Haynes, John.
Hey,
great to chat.
Always a pleasure. And Max will be joining us as well for this portion of the evening. Max, how are you?
Doing good. Not a great start to baseball season, but otherwise doing okay.
Yes. Well, only 3 games in. No, don't make any assumptions yet.
It's been a bad 3, been ugly.
Yeah. I was told earlier by a friend across the pond that we can't make too many baseball references. So we'll keep those in check here. But Fred, I'll start with you. So how are you feeling about SNL over the last month?
But also not a huge baseball fan, so including our friends across the pond. I appreciate that. I actually really love the season, and I feel like for years I've been saying that on this show, but now I actually realize what it means, that it does feel like a fresher take on the show. I feel like I've felt that before, but now I can actually see it, almost to the point that sometimes I miss some of the stuff that we were used to the last few years, more like the Smook style sketches I do kind of miss. Or I feel like the pre-tapes used to be a little stronger, and they used to rely on it a bit more. I don't know if that's a hot take, but in general, no, I'm really enjoying the season. I think the rookies are really strong, and I do feel like there's just a fresh take, like I said, on the show. So a big fan. I'd say I didn't love the Harry Styles episode, to be honest, but that's not to say it was bad by any means. I just think the 2 previous were really, really impressive. I think Storrie did an incredible job, and Ryan Gosling's had some of weirder, darker writing that I really look for in the show.
I think I'm with you. I think the night of, I was maybe enjoying the Harry Styles more than the episode more than I did on the rewatch, where I was like, it's more okay than I thought. But more like okay. But besides that, it has been really fun. I agree with you. The season has been, you always thought it was going to be a challenge to keep up the hype of after the 50th and what that would look like. And it does feel like they've really maintained that momentum. Fred, I know that you just brought up Dismukes, and we had this question that came in from our friend Nick Fleece, who said, should we consider Dismukes on Danger Watch? So we did this whole segment on By the Numbers a couple of weeks ago where Mike and I were talking about this. And Danger Watch, I think, is a term that applies to someone who might get let go from the show. I don't think that Andrew's there. I mean, he was a writer for a while. He's now in the cast. I don't think he's being let go, but is it possible that he's ready to be on his way out? Haynes, I would never want this for Andrew, but it has been a little bit weird this last month where we haven't seen him at all.
Okay, we really haven't seen him, but I would not consider him on Danger Watch. I would not go anywhere near that far. He's not having his most prolific season, obviously, but we all know what he can bring to the table. And I think, especially as the newer folks settle into the group, because we do have kind of a very fresh vibe this year, I think we'll see him engaged more with those newer folks that are getting a lot of spotlight. And the current vibe of the show absolutely has room for those classic, like, multi-act, weird Dismukian sketches that he writes, that seem to have kind of really take you through like several different stages. I think that there's plenty of room for that kind of oddness with this cast and this current vibe, and I expect that. I don't think he's on Danger Watch at all. I absolutely expect him to be back next year, and I expect that we'll see a little more engagement and a little more interwovenness but between some of the fresh changing vibe and what Andrew had that was never like deeply settled in kind of the previous cast. I feel like we saw Andrew kind of moving us in a little bit of a different direction. We started to see him kind of emerge in his own way, and now he's taking a little bit of a step back. But all that we were so excited about is still there, and I think we'll see more interconnection moving forward. I would not put him on Danger Watch.
I wouldn't either. I think he's in a slump, but I don't think that will last for the rest of the season, or at least I certainly hope it won't. I think if someone can bring the best of him, it's maybe Jack Black, who last year we had that Indiana Jones sketch that led off the night. And I feel like that their energy back and forth where, he's Jack is this larger than life presence, and I feel like Andrew can go from like 0 to 100 really quickly, and that makes for great comedy in a sketch. So I'm hoping just this weekend we'll get back on track. Max, did you want to talk about that, or is there anything else you wanted to ask us here tonight?
I will say I think Danger Watch is definitely a term more for like featured players. I don't think. Yeah, I agree. He's not on Danger Watch. There's a possibility he doesn't come back. But my question that I had was, what do you think is going to happen first? Will an SNL US cast member cameo on SNL UK, or will an SNL UK cameo cross over to the US and cameo on our show?
So you mean like a current cast member?
Current cast member, yeah. Active.
Yeah, it's tough because the shooting schedule right now is happening at the same time. So it would be pretty improbable beyond like a pre-tape, right? So we wouldn't physically get someone there. I would feel that maybe an SNL US cast member on SNL UK, just because I think the show is realizing that their audience isn't just a UK audience. They were very deliberate in saying we want to make this as British as possible, but I don't think that having Keenan pop up in a pre-tape makes this show any less British. So I do think it's possible. My dream is, because I believe the two finales for the season SNL UK and SNL US will be airing on the same night, May 16th. My dream is that there is some sort of sketch that starts on one show and finishes on the other show, that, you don't necessarily have to watch both to get what's going on here, but like make this fun, connect the two worlds together. Haynes, am I crazy?
That's too much, man. It just sounds hard to pull off. But yeah, of course we would love to see a gag like that. I hear what you're saying totally. That I don't think having Keenan pop over there in a pre-tape would make the show feel any less British. I could see if we had a British host on SNL US, and then I could see maybe them having a cast member included in like a pre-tape or maybe a promo or something, or like, why aren't you on our version of the show or something, just as some sort of like little joke or something. I think it's a great question, Max, but yeah, hard to answer. I have no idea.
Look, what I wanted to see happen here is, does is there a sketch on SNL UK, like let's say George is Starmer and he walks into one of those red telephone booths and he teleports his way like into an SNL UK sketch. Like maybe he disappears on SNL UK. We don't see him for the rest of the night, that character, and then he pops up in SNL US. So there's this sort of like this, like, Starmer, what are you doing here? I think that there is some, Fred, come on, this is a good idea.
I love your creativity and your enthusiasm. Like some sort of like Doctor Who thing, maybe. Like, I guess, is that what we're going for here? But like,
That's
I feel like
for, yeah.
a lot of people in the US may not even know what Doctor Who is. But no, I mean, I would love that. But I do think, like to Max's point, it's probably, if anything, somebody from the US going over there first, just because they're a little bit more popular or established, from what I understand. Like, I think we were even saying Chloe Fineman was in London and when she missed an episode. So actually Bowen, like forget somebody who's current. I could see like Bowen Yang being in London for some reason, maybe appearing somewhere.
Well, I think that is a good opportunity. I also think that there's a chance that, let's say there is a host who has established a character on SNL US and then they host SNL UK. There's nothing prohibiting SNL UK from using that character on their show. And I think that's probably the most likely connection that we'll get right now. I think if SNL UK gets renewed for series 2, I'll be curious of, do they always do the show the same night? Because we're going to have 5 double headers between now and the end of the season, which is great for me. But I'm curious, like, can it sustain its audience of people who want to watch both shows at the same time?
Or also maybe like Domingo has like a really buttoned up English cousin, or like somebody with a Cockney accent, like a little more like loose. I don't know, but
love it.
Maybe too much.
I don't know. I kind of like that.
Yeah, I do. I feel like we're all sort of over the Domingo, but if there was a English Domingo, then that's fine. I mean, I'll throw out this question to the group here. Are we getting Domingo when Coleman Domingo hosts the show? It's just like, it's so obvious.
No, I hope not.
I don't think so. I think
it didn't cross my mind. Yeah, but now that you did that,
don't do it. So, 2 on the head.
Is it 2 on that? So I think the thing that is most likely to happen here is that the Thursday promo will be Marcelo. And he'll be like he's like, I'm Coleman Domingo, and I'm hosting Saturday Night Live this week with music from Anita. And then he's going to be like, Domingo? Oh my gosh. And then he's going to like poof and become Domingo. Like, that's what we're going to get on Thursday. So Rachel Niswander, don't take that. But yeah, I think that is probably our connection to it. It might be 2 on the nose, but we shall see what happens here. I love all the possibilities and the fact that we have just a chance of having somebody appear on either one of these shows now. It's great to have these sandboxes we can play in. So Max, appreciate you joining us here. Anything else you wanted to say before you go?
No, that was all I had.
All right, appreciate you, buddy. Good luck with baseball season. Just 3 games in. We got more to go. So.
Well, nobly forced 2, but that's okay.
All right, long way to go, man.
long
Fred,
season.
Yeah, Fred, great to speak to you too as well.
Thank you all. Talk soon.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk soon. All right. Thanks, Fred. Thank you, Max. Haynes, let's keep it going. Let's bring in our friends that are here. First, we'll bring in Dakota is here. Dakota, what's up, man?
Hello. Nothing much. Good to be here. Good to be back.
Happy to have you back on, Dakota. And joining us for this portion of the show is Marcus as well. Marcus, what's up?
Hello, everyone. Great to be back here on the podcast again. To talk about the last 3 SNL US episodes and SNL UK. So can't wait to get into it.
Can't wait to get into it. We've never had 5 episodes of SNL to talk about on a feedback show. So we can go in any direction here. Yeah, Dakota, crazy. Where are you going to take us?
Well, I don't know. Where do we start? Well, I'll just give my thoughts on the US shows so far.
Sure.
I think they've all been fairly solid, maybe some better than others. I know with the Ryan Gosling episode, I was kind of going into it dreading it. Because I didn't really like the Beavis and Butthead sketch aside, because that's kind of an all-timer. I was kind of not on board with, him breaking in every single sketch. It kind of grew tiresome after a while, for me at least. I know it's kind of a hot button issue. But with this episode, how the writers and the cast and the staff, they all just kind of leaned into the fact that, he's a breaker, he's a giggler. And they just kind of decided to go into it and say, hey, let's just, throw caution to the wind, not take it too seriously. Let's just go have fun with our friend Ryan. And I think it really worked. It actually probably, if not my favorite, like second favorite episode of the season. So
I like that.
It's been good. It's been good.
Yeah, that's great. Marcus, what about you? What's on your mind?
As I also pretty much agree, essentially. Connor's stories I was surprised by, essentially. Gosling I enjoyed, more or less so. And Harry Styles, I would say, is pretty much like the least favorite of the three, essentially. Although I still enjoyed it nonetheless. And this is actually the first time I actually never got a chance to watch these shows live, considering I'm now working by the time SNL would come on. Essentially, I'm still at work. So if I'm lucky, I probably only get a chance to see the last 20, 25 minutes of it, essentially. So nowadays I just pretty much watch the sketches the day after the chance, essentially. But overall,
Marcus,
I've been enjoying it.
If it helps, I'm working every time that there's an SNL US on.
That makes me a lot better, actually. Thank you.
The thinker.
Yeah.
Well, as for the UK show, I've seen the first episode right now. I haven't got a chance to see the second one of it yet, essentially. But overall, I've been on board with it thus far, essentially. And who knows what might happen with that show, too.
Yeah, that definitely. Dakota, do you have anything you wanted to ask Haynes or I?
Yeah, actually, something came to mind. I was trying to rack my brain around some things to mention. And what I thought, just taking a little bit of the US show and the UK show, talking about both. What is something you would like to see from the US show, kind of that's a hallmark of the US show, incorporated more into the UK show that hasn't been, or there's been less of it, or vice versa? Like, if there's something from the UK show that you've really enjoyed that you would like to see in the US show. So anything crossover?
Yeah, so we did UK to US earlier in the show tonight. So I think US to UK is a good way to answer the question, Dakota. And I think that
sorry, I'm a little late. I missed it.
You're all good. No, it's totally fine. I think that we haven't spoken about what we'd like to see in the UK show that we haven't seen so far from the US. And I think the thing for me is that we got it briefly in the cold open, but I loved that moment of Jack Shep holding up the Princess Di newspaper, and it was him from episode 1. And that's what this show should be. It should reward the viewers for watching it. So anyone who had seen the premiere enjoyed that cold open even more because they had seen the anyone who watched the first episode enjoyed the second episode more, is what I'm trying to say. So my point is that I think that SNL US has built up lore over a long period of time, and it started with the Bees back in the first season and eventually leads to the Five Timers Club, and it's become so crazy that who knows what we're going to see this weekend with Jack Black hosting for his 5th time. But I would love to see the SNL UK develop their own lore, their own characters, their own things that really reward the viewership for watching it. And I think they started that this past weekend. Haynes, what about you?
So this is something that really threw me off with the first episode of SNL UK. And it changed a little bit in the second. I was glad to see some change there. But, something that it's just kind of classic. It's part of the way we structure cinema in the Western world, or probably just cinema in general. Very much you've got the opening scene and you've got the ending scene. And let's take like Sleepless in Seattle, for example. It opens with, Tom Hanks is there. His wife is like in the ground. His wife is dead. His person in life is gone. She's literally in a hole in the ground. She can't physically be any lower. Right. And then the very last scene of Sleepless in Seattle, he's with Meg Ryan. He's got his woman back now, his new woman. He's got this person back in his life, and they're on this roof overlooking Seattle. They can't be any higher up, right? These shots are kind of showing us, they're kind of telling the story, right? This person goes from this absolute low to this absolute high, right? So it's so important in experience, right? There's a reason that we have that metaphor about something leaving a taste in your mouth, right? Because so much of an experience you have is about that very last moment and the feeling you have when you step away from it, right? When SNL opens, and SNL UK opens the same way, you've got that cold open, but then you've got the montage with that fun, funky beat as they're listing off all the characters. And then at the end of the night, it's so critical with SNL that during those good nights, they go into that blues riff, and all of a sudden it feels like it's like spending a long night at the bar with old friends. You had this great wild adventure, but now things are winding down, and you're kind of sad it's over, but at the same time, you just feel warm and good about the experience. And there's a little bit of, I wouldn't call it nostalgia, but there's a little bit of that feeling like, wow, this is over, but I'll see you again soon, bud. And that outro that they play during the good nights is so crucial to that final taste in your mouth. And when the first episode of SNL UK ended, they ended with another upbeat, funky bop, just like the intro montage. And I thought, oh my God. I think. Yeah. And I went, whoa, no good for me. Like
where's my waltz and A?
Yeah.
I wanted to have a different type of feeling. And it didn't cross my mind that maybe that's just because it's the first episode and it's a little bit celebratory. In the second episode, they did end on a different jam, completely different. I don't know if it'll take time before they settle into what their outro music is going to be, or if that second one we heard is just what it's going to be moving forward. I don't know, but I'll tell you, the good nights and that last taste that is left in your mouth is so important, and I hope that they find a place for them to land on their episodes that just leave me with that same feeling that I get every time we have those goodbyes with the SNL US.
That was beautiful, Haynes. I feel like you took us to school.
That was actually, those were my thoughts exactly. And Haynes, you
awesome.
You summed it up a lot better than I would have. So yeah, thank you. Yeah, I would just like to, in general, hear from the band a lot more. I know with the format of the show, and because they have less commercial breaks and stuff, it might be a little tougher. But I know even like with the stingers and the bumpers coming in and out from commercial, it seems like it's the same thing over and over and over again. And if they just even vary that up just a little bit, it might spice things up a little bit.
Yeah, I'm curious if the band's playing the entire commercial like they do in the US. I'd have to ask one of our producers. Izzy was there this weekend, so I'll ask her after. She's in the UK, so she's not awake right now, I don't think. But I'll ask her and get for the By the Number show on Wednesday, like what happens between the commercial breaks. But to your point, Haynes, I agree with you. I also think that in the Good Nights this week, they did something different, which was that they cut from the live shot of everyone hugging on stage to some behind the scenes photos from during the week, which was very cool. I'd love to see those. I'd rather them use them as bumpers throughout the night than use them in the Good Nights, because I think in the Good Nights, we really want to see them break down the facade of the show and, hug and interact. And there's so much fodder there that we can take from watching the Good Nights. So I would do a slight twist on that, I'd say, but I love your point. And Marcus, I just want to bring you in here in case, of course, there's anything else you want to say about Haynes or Dakota or my thoughts on US to UK.
I can actually kind of do see your points. Actually, it's gonna take me a while to actually get the whole thing because I haven't really caught up on the UK show in a bit.
No problem.
All right. But speaking of which, considering that you have been going to be doing double headers, how's the whole breakdown going to be going through here with US and covering US and UK moving forward? After
sure, so it's going to be a challenge, but we're going to do our best with it. So I love a challenge. So what's going to happen is that now there's an extra hour between UK and US. They have now sprung forward. So for me, just on Eastern time, what will be happening is the show will air live at 5:00. I'll watch the show live 5:00. I'll do the podcast at 7:00 on Saturdays. Then podcast will be done. I'll get ready for SNL US. Then we'll watch the show at 11:30, and then I'll be back podcasting at 1 a.m. Just like the maniac that I am. But it'll be so much fun, and we'll all be in this together. And then Mondays will be our regular roundtables. We'll still do that for SNL US episodes. And then on Wednesday for By the Numbers, we're going to have them mostly covering SNL US, but we'll also have some of the UK metrics there as well. So Mike will go through those on Wednesday. So we won't neglect UK during the week. We'll still try and do some talk about it the best we can, but we'll mostly be focusing on US during the week while the doubleheaders are happening. And of course, as we get towards the end of the season for our postseason coverage, we'll probably do a proper wrap up of SNL UK Series 1. So.
Good. Right.
But I'm excited, and I appreciate everyone supporting us as we're on this journey together to watch both of these shows. But Marcus, thank you for joining us here tonight.
Very grateful to be back here again. Hope to come back soon.
Yes, definitely. And Dakota, appreciate your questions. Always great seeing you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, good to be here. Good to talk with you, Haynes. I don't think you've been on the last time I was on. Yeah, I don't think you were. So yeah, good to meet you.
I don't
finally.
think we have been.
Yeah. And
great.
And Jon, thank you for all you do here. And it's a wonderful community to be a part of.
I appreciate you both. Always great seeing you, and looking forward to chatting with you in the chat while we're doing some of these shows coming up in the next month. So we'll talk soon. Thanks,
all
Marcus,
right.
and
Take
thank
care.
you, Dakota.
Bye-bye.
See you guys.
All right, Haynes, about halfway through our show here tonight. This has been an absolute blast. So many great questions.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, and I just got a message. Oh, okay. Producer Izzy is awake and watching the show. So thank you, Izzy. Says that the bands are playing the entire commercial. So that's the answer for that. So we do get that similarity there. But maybe something to think about. Different band director. They're also fantastic. But to Haynes' point, we want a Sleepless in Seattle moment of having the end of the night be just as melancholy as SNL US. But a great point there, Haynes. All right, let's bring in our next pair of patrons joining us here tonight. And let's welcome our friend Demi back to the show. Demi, how are you?
I'm great, Jon. How are you?
Doing fantastic.
Hey,
so great to see you. Love the shirt. You look great. Let's bring in our friend Steve is here as well. Steve, what's up, buddy?
Jon, Haynes, good to be with you guys. And our apologies to the British audience that these numbers mean nothing to you. I apologize for that.
Yes. As they're like, no more baseball talk. I was like, oh, okay. But it's fun to get to celebrate some British jokes and humor, even if it's from an American perspective every now and then. So, Demi, I will start with you. How are you doing this past month with Saturday Night Live? And is there anything you want to talk about here?
I'm doing great, Jon. Thanks for asking. Thanks for having me. I mean, it's just been really great. Like Ryan Gosling was great. He's one of the few hosts that I genuinely get excited about, and he delivers because it's just everyone's having fun. It's a good time, and I think he's a lot more skilled than people maybe give him credit for. I think he can control his breaking a little bit because he does. I forget the specific sketch, but I thought that was great. But I guess the buzz is all about the UK cast, and I guess I just wanted to say real quick what I really appreciate about the way you've been covering it specifically is having British people on, and then they'll pick a sketch that I'm like, okay, like the what kind of Irish is your granddad? Like I kind of got that, but the fact that you had, I think Katie was her name, I forget. Frankie. She thought that was so funny and so specific. And I love that because what we think is funny is actually very different depending on where you are. So the fact that I could be like, oh, that's pretty good. I hope that to hear that it played so, it struck so deep and like really hit the target. And the same thing with the Jules Holland sketch. Like I didn't really, when I was watching it, I was like, I don't really know what's going on here, but I hope the people that this is for like it. And I think Tom was the and he loved it. So he there's an amount of cynicism I'm hearing from the way that maybe British people take in comedy, but hearing them specifically freak out a little bit because they're so happy about the way a sketch played and it's so personal to them. I love it. So I'm really, I love all of it. I don't know where you're finding these people, but keep them coming. I love to hear the perspective. It's really educational.
Yeah, Frankie's an amazing patron, and Tom was a patron for a long time as well. So I'm very lucky that we get so many people from around the world checking out our show and wanting to be a part of it. So, it's one of those cool sociological things when you're watching these shows or you're getting to know a different perspective or you get to hear people from different parts of the world or from different backgrounds. It's so easy to go lowest common denominator and assume that everybody is feeling the same way about something, that all Brits are feeling a certain way, or that they're a monolith in the way that they feel about the show. But even just getting 2 different weeks, hearing from Frankie and then hearing from Tom, it's just 2 completely different perspectives, even though they're both from the UK, to talk about the show. So I'm very excited. I think Frankie's going to be joining us again this coming week for the Riz Ahmed episode. So it'll be great to hear from her again. And hopefully other Brits will join us along the way for our coverage. Steve, how's the last month of SNL been for you? Is there anything that you want to talk about?
I mean, I've enjoyed SNL UK probably more so than I've enjoyed SNL US in the last few weeks. The US episodes have been kind of hit or miss. The Harry Styles episode in particular, it felt like a lot of guest star treatment for the Harry Styles episode. Like, it felt like the crowd was applauding every time he came on stage, and it's like, he was hosting, right? But that's just my perspective on the US thing. I'll toss up a question here, just based on just something I thought about before I jumped on the old StreamYard. What's the possibility of a JAJ George Fouracres crossover at some point happening? Either one in one studio, one in the other studio, or one coming over on one side of the pond to the other.
Haynes, I would think that would be the most likely crossover that we would get. It would probably be the easiest to do.
Yeah, I mean, they just seem like a match that could obviously play incredibly well with their impression skills. I can't wait for this crossover whenever it happens. I can't possibly predict when we're going to get it, sooner or later. I hope it's sooner. Whatever type of crossover we get, it is. But whenever we get it, I think it's clearly something that everyone's looking forward to already. We've had multiple questions about it, and so I think it will feel like we're really getting something special when it finally happens. That's for sure.
Yeah, I couldn't lie that I was a little disappointed to find out that it was Patty who did the Trump voiceover in that first episode when he's on the phone for 1 second. It just would have been so cool for that to be James. I know it may not have played and it was so brief that maybe people wouldn't have even picked up that it was James, but I think that there is this opportunity. And yeah, it's tough to know, where do they want to separate the shows? Where do they want the perception of the shows to be different? The fact that Tina hosted the first episode, and not only that, but was around the entire week for the Jamie Dornan episode. If you watched, maybe especially if you're a Brit and you watched Jamie Dornan on Claudia Winkleman's show, he talked about the fact that Tina was around all week to help. So it seems very much like there is that influence there, and that these shows will be intertwined in the future. I think there's a likelihood that this is going to happen at some point. Demi, I saw a great comment from you when we were talking about this past week's episode, and you were saying how you feel very fortunate that you watched so much British royalty documentaries, was that? And that you feel like you're really getting what's going on.
Yes. Thank you, John, for shouting that out. A lot of hard work by me. But yes, because the Americans can't really skewer the British people like the British, we can't do it. So I did appreciate all the context, but because there's so much conspiracy behind Princess Diana's death and how she died and what they knew. So to go back and give a neat little answer, oh, we planned all this 29 years ago, it satisfies every conspiracy theory. The US couldn't do that, but the US does have an interest in the royal family. So that was, the one thing I didn't get though was Sarah Ferguson's funny walks. I didn't know that was such a cultural touchstone, I guess. I didn't realize that, but everything else about making the other royals look better by comparison, that's mean, but I did kind of get that. And especially now, I think it's fine. So I feel stupid saying oh, I've watched a bunch of documentaries, so I'm right there with you guys. I get it. But I wasn't lost for reference. I'm oh, this is huge. This is such a big deal. They're doing this. They're the only ones that can do it. So I feel like it's all paid off.
Yeah, I think there's always going to be little things in these SNL US sketches that will take a bit to get the reference if you're not living over there. For example, at the end of that cold open we saw this past week, they talked about the code name, and they said, Pizza Express Woking, which I think that, would be you're kind of wait, what's that? But then if you're in the UK, of course, So I think that there are subtle references that they want the show to feel British and feel intentionally British, but at the same time, those bigger things, I think you're right, Demi, will apply for Americans who are very interested in British culture, and especially British royal culture. What I think is interesting that if you are a fan of SNL from previous generations, you would know how much British culture influenced the early days of Saturday Night Live, that Lorne and the cast were such big fans of Monty Python, and some of those guys hosted the show. And even like into the late 80s, we had cast members playing members of the royal family. So they don't do that as much now, as there seems to be more of a separation in our connection to them. But I think that SNL just has a large history of being involved in them, and it doesn't feel so foreign to watch this on the show based on watching previous seasons of SNL US. Steve, anything else from this last month that you want to get our take on?
I mean, I think we kind of hit a lot of the high notes. I'm dealing with a lot of lag, so that might be the bigger issue there. No, I mean, I've enjoyed the last couple episodes, and to me, I mean, like, I want it to be authentically British, but I haven't, as an American, I have not felt lost watching these 2 episodes. I mean, some things I'm not going to get. Like, I'm not going to get the George Fouracres, what kind of British or what kind of Irish is your granddad? I'm not going to get that. But for other things, like I don't feel completely lost. But at the same time, I'm glad it's authentically British enough, because it's their show. It's not. We have an SNL here.
That's fair.
Side of the pond.
Yeah, for sure. And very, very cool that we have so many listeners too that are just so excited about this show from across the pond. But Steve, I appreciate you. Go Cubs, go. Just only a few games in, but looking good this year, buddy. And Demi, a pleasure.
Cabrera's looking good so far tonight, and thanks. Good to talk to you, John, and Haynes as well.
Absolutely, Demi. Always a pleasure to get to speak to you, and hope we get to chat soon.
Always. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Demi. All right, Haynes, let's keep this train rolling along. We got 2 great friends coming on in, so let's bring in Matt is here. Matt, what's up, buddy?
Guys, good to be on the show. Just for the record, both of my grandparents were Italian, so I don't know if that means I have to leave, but that's I don't know if that was a prerequisite to be on.
We have no rules here, so
okay, good.
You have more than 45 seconds for me. That's no problem. Let's bring in Ajax with us as well. Ajax, what's up, man?
Hey, how you doing, John?
Doing great. So great to see you, Ajax. How you feeling about this past month of Saturday Night Live?
Well, I am feeling really, really good. I'm so happy that there are now 2 SNLs to discuss. How cool is that? And are you okay? Are you sleeping? Cool. Are you sleeping okay?
I'm sleeping.
I'm worried
great.
about your health, John.
No, don't worry about me. No, I'm good. This is a blessing. Seriously. I mean, when we started podcasting about this show, there was no indication that SNL UK would ever be existing. And how cool is it that we have this community already in place when the show is starting, so we can all enjoy the show together. So, I'm very grateful that this is happening, and we'll figure out the best way to cover it. Even if they end up doing 20 episodes next year, we have plenty of people who want to talk about this show, and I'm just happy to have the platform to be able to do that. So,
good deal.
Yeah, of course. Matt, what's going on with you? What's on your mind?
Yeah, I mean, the shows have been good. I mean, the 3 US shows, I didn't really have anything going in with Connor Storrie. I barely knew the guy, and he was a great host. I thought he really did a good job. Really brought some stuff to the show, apparently from like an older sketch that he was doing, and did a great job there. I'm not a huge fan of Gosling just because he breaks so much, but then again, they kind of steered into that skid. So I kind of like that with the teacher passing notes sketch. I thought that was a good way to use him breaking, just saying, hey, if he's going to break, let's let everybody break. And then Harry Styles, a pro, did really good job there too. And as far as the UK ones, yeah, I mean, I thought they did a really good job. I mean, for the first 2 episodes in, I thought they were really solid. I wanted them to play it more as like Monty Python than SNL. So I'm kind of hoping that they go more into the George Fouracres 45-second stuff and the weird stuff. Like I want them to do more of that. And even the stuff with Annabelle in week 2 with the musical number, like something like that. That looked like it was right out of Spam, basically, the Monty Python type thing. So I kind of like that they're doing that. So overall, pretty solid. I thought it was, it was enjoyable. It was good.
For sure, Foraker's sketch at the end of the first episode felt the most different than anything we would see on the show, besides swearing or graphic prosthetics and things like that. So, I'll be curious if they continue to do that throughout the next 6 episodes of this show. Ajax, do you have any questions for us? Anything you want to talk about?
I'd actually like to talk about the music, because one of the things about SNL UK that has blown me away is the sound quality of the musical performances. So we understood after the monologue with the surprise Graham Norton appearance that was Graham Norton's studio. That was TC1. That's where he records. And the Wet Leg performances, the Wolf Alice performances, and that musical was unbelievable to me. The sound quality that we got. So it kind of leaves SNL OG with a little something to look at and go, maybe we should get some better speakers. Maybe we should get some egg cartons going. Like what should we do? Because I was just blown away. And then the choices of the musical acts too. I mean, these are probably musical acts we wouldn't see here. Wet Leg would probably be the closest one because they're blowing up the most over here. But I am super excited for these next 5 to see who they have booked. And so I have some ideas, and I have some others that I'd like to see. If you don't mind me running those by you real quick.
No, throw them by us. I love this.
So the one that I see happening the most is Arlo Parks. And this is an artist I've been following for a while. She's got a beautiful voice, indie pop singer. Just, I can't wait to see her on an SNL stage. So I think that could happen. The band Pet Needs just released an album. This is like a party punk band they do lean a little political, and it would kind of be a really cool thing to see a punk band on an SNL stage too. And then some other stretches. I would love to see Nothing But Thieves. They're another really cool like indie alt rock band that I like a lot. My favorite band from a long, long time ago, I finally got to see live last year, is a Welsh band called Stereophonics. And they're very well known in the UK. And I would love to see them. And then how about another legendary indie folk punk artist, Frank Turner? So those are on my wish list for the next 5. I see of those 5, Arlo Parks is probably going to be the one that happens if any of them do. So yeah, I appreciate you letting me voice my opinions on the music front.
Of course. I love that you threw them out there. I do know who will be headlining for episode number 4 for
But
SNL
you can't
UK.
say.
I cannot say, but I will say that everybody will know very, very soon. So
everybody will know this artist, or everybody will know
who they are. Probably by the time you wake up tomorrow, you'll know who.
You got such a great poker face, John.
But I will say that I don't want to get in trouble here, but I think that the 4th musical guest will be different than what we've seen in the first 3, where the first 3 feel like they're going for like these like sort of like British bands to kick off the show. It seems like the episode number 4 feels very different for the musical guest. So by tomorrow morning, you'll have an idea who that is. Haynes, I want to know, because you were talking about music earlier. Do you resonate with what Ajax is saying about the sound quality that we're getting from you, SNL UK?
Well, I did think it sounded really good. It was not something that I latched onto and spent a lot of time thinking about. It would be great to have James Stevens here to talk about this. But I completely. I mean, absolutely, it was really clear. I thought during the, like you mentioned, the musical sketch with Annabelle, when they were in the warehouse making crunch wraps or whatever it was, something like that, the McDonald's wraps that stick to the wrapper. I mean, the production was beautiful, top to bottom. So I don't. If SNL can match that level of production, good on them. I've heard people criticize certain aspects of SNL music production, particularly, in the last season or so. I'm not criticizing SNL musical production, but I will say that they have taken some risks that I thought were deliberate and cool. that where things sounded a little bit off, and other people had issues with it, and I thought it was artistic and deliberate. And we have talked about some folks bringing in their own front of house engineers, and so I don't know what kind of leeway. I would expect that if artists want to do something like that on SNL UK, I would expect that they're probably not going to be discouraged from doing that. But maybe we'll have to see. Maybe they're going to run a tight ship at first, because obviously they've been impressing people with the sound quality they've produced so far. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how this works logistically, but my understanding is that record labels often help with some of the budget for the SNL US performances. So you'll have like a backing of them coming in, and they'll say like, oh, I want to do this with the set. And they'll have like a budget to make everything look really beautiful, not just sound quality wise. Obviously that's more from the show, but really just the way that it looks. And it seems like what we've gotten with Wet Leg and Wolf Alice is it's just, they're sort of performing on stage and they're fitting into whatever's there for the UK. And I am interested to see if the artists that come in from the UK, if they end up like doing something a lot bigger like we did or like we do in the US. If you go watch Questlove's music documentary and you see Don Roy King talking about that, or what they did with Kanye's performances, those type of things with the LED lights, like at what point are we playing around with things in the UK, or can we even do that because we're borrowing a set from Graham Norton? So there's a lot of questions I have moving forward. Matt, do you want to get in on this conversation?
Yeah, because I mean, the toughest part too about having in the U.S. is you have Rockefeller Center, which is a 90-year-old building, and it has nooks and crannies that probably only Toscanini knows about. So maybe there's some stuff there that maybe you can't really have the sound quality in a Rockefeller Center that you can with a studio that's newish, or I don't know how new the Graham Norton studio is, but it looks fairly new, and however old that studio is, you can set it up to actually make it be good for the musical guest. Whereas Rockefeller Center, you're confined to whatever the 1930s allowed you to do to put that into Studio 8H, right? So it's a little bit trickier when you have that, just in terms of the building. But yeah, I agree actually with what they just was saying. I actually was thinking the same type of thing, that the sound quality really does sound great for the UK version. I'll also throw out another band called The Last Dinner Party, which is also a very good band too, which is an English band that I would like to see as well. I do like that the UK version is getting more rock acts, and you don't see as many rock acts, notwithstanding Jack White coming up. But you normally you'd see different types of acts in the US, and rock music hasn't really been a big deal in the US in the last however many 10 15 years really. So I'm glad to see that the UK like indie rock bands are getting on the show rather than others. Not that others wouldn't be good, but I'm just saying that they would. I like to see that anyway.
Can I throw out something probably really blasphemous, but we're like an hour and a half into this thing. I feel like it would be fine. I don't care if SNL ends up moving out of Studio 8H one day. Like it doesn't bother me. I feel like
they've done shows in Brooklyn. Haven't they done shows in Brooklyn before?
Well, like they've done pre-tapes in Brooklyn, okay. But they've obviously
like when the election coverage or something. They had election coverage one year, I think.
Yeah, I think they went out of there. They did it on a studio. Like they went a few floors down in the 80s, like a few times when the studio was being used for election stuff. Like I know there's like a lot of historic things, and you would lose the whole like Farley like hit his head here. But I don't like it. To me, like you can retire old Yankee Stadium and have a new Yankee Stadium. It doesn't like change the way you watch the Yankees.
Turn it into a museum.
Yeah,
a museum.
This is completely blasphemous.
Yankee Stadium, but whatever.
Okay, all right, hands on. I'm crazy.
This is completely blasphemous. SNL belongs in 8H. It always should. And listen, don't you want the ghosts haunting this place? Like like that. Like you want to be in that space. Listen, Matt makes a great point about the old space. But you can retrofit it, and I'm sure there's things that could be done.
Wrigley Field, Wrigley Field.
Yeah. But leaving 8H, that I am gonna call that out as blasphemous for sure.
Well, I think that there is something intimate about it to have only 200 something people watching the show. It would be a lot of people would throw their hands up in the air and be like, "Oh, this isn't SNL anymore." But I think SNL could take place on a football stadium. Like, I don't think
it's not
that
just it's not just the intimacy, right? Listen, okay, you could build a small house of worship that is the same size of some other small house of worship that you build next year. But there's something different about being in some place that people have been for 1,000 years, like communing and spending time and having experience, and that is 8H. And you can't tear that chapel down, John.
I agree with the aesthetics, but not the acoustics. I mean, we got to do something about these acoustics.
Yeah,
we can do something about the acoustics.
We've gone down a different path
I'm
here.
sure there's a way.
But I think that there is look, to me, there's too much demand for people wanting to go watch SNL and not enough supply. There's not enough play. Like, SNL should be something that if you want to go to, you can go to. And I think that this is like, for the longevity of the show, it would be good if we could allow more people to get to watch the show and experience that in person. So that's my sort of where my thinking is, but
I want to go to there.
Yes.
SNL Stadium Tour 2027. Every week it'll be at like another 20,000 person hockey arena, NBA arena across the Western
Winter
world.
Classic. They'll have it outdoors.
Haynes, if you're home watching it on TV, like, are you going to notice that it's like, well, okay, 1 week it's in, 1 week it's in this borough and this week it's in the next borough? Like, you don't give a shit. Like, you're just watching it. Like, it's like. But anyways, all right, this is a whole other thing. So Ajax, thank you for coming on and sending me on this tangent. I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. Matt, always a pleasure.
Great to be with you guys. Thanks a lot.
Yes. Looking forward to chatting with you both coming up soon. So enjoy the month of April for Saturday Night Live. All right. Did I go too far?
You were pushing some boundaries there, buddy.
Okay, all right, I'll behave. All right, let's bring in our next pairing that we got here. So first up, coming in to the show is the incredible Max is here. Max, how are you?
Doing okay. Glad to be here. Is sound okay? I misplaced my earphone chargers and I can't find them anywhere.
Don't worry, you sound great. So we're just happy to have you on the show here today. And joining us as well is Ian. Ian, what's up, man? Ian, I cannot hear you, but for some reason it's not coming through. But in the meantime, while you work on that, I'm going to just say hey to Max. So Max, how has the last month of Saturday Night Live been for you?
Pretty good. Pretty good. I love Counter Storrie's energy, even though a couple of the sketches fell flat. The leg elongator one, I did a rewatch and I fast forwarded through it. I love
the
Gosling.
Marcelo one.
I'm an improv baby. So I loved the note sketch, and I would like it if they do more sketches like that. Yes, it was a breakathon, but I really enjoyed it. And Harry Styles was good, not the best, not the worst, just good. And UK, I really like. I'm really liking UK, particularly the musical sketches, and I got British pub stuck in my head all day.
Yeah, the British theme pub. It's a great one. So that is one that hopefully will continue to go more viral so people can come and find the show. Ian, do we have you back into the show right now?
You tell me. Is it good?
Yeah, we can hear you great.
Nice. All right.
What's up with you?
Yeah, it is behind me. I know I saw something in the comments. But yeah, no, I'm good. I'm just happy to be here. Happy to talk about so much SNL. That'll be fun. And I feel like it's been a minute since I've been on here.
Yeah, it has. And it's always very weird to see myself on TV. So I'm always like, hey, like I'm recording this from like my house into my, you can keep it on. It's no problem. It's very funny. But it's just whenever I see somebody's like watching our hot take show on a TV, I'm like, this is very bizarre, but it's very cool. Ian,
my light.
Yeah, no worries. You're good. So what's on your mind? Anything that you want to talk to Haynes or I about?
Well, I mean, there's so much to talk about. Like standout people from UK. Really like Ahmed. I don't know if the H is silent or not, but
I don't think so. I think it is Ahmed.
Okay, Ahmed. Okay, yeah. The first episode, everything he does is like his timing, his delivery, it just kills me every time. I'm like, all right, he's someone I'm gonna watch. Same with the weekend update of UK. Fresh, love it. Plus, I'm basically British. My mom's first gen from Scotland, so
Okay.
I was watching it with her, and she understood like a lot more than I did. She loves Absolutely Fabulous, so she liked that reference in the monologue. So ab fab, if you will.
That's
Yeah,
very cool.
it's been
My
fun.
wife's family is partially from Scotland, so I was there a couple of years ago, and I feel like that was like to prepare me. Well, that wasn't the purpose of the trip, but a dual purpose also helped prepare me for SNL UK. So that was very cool. Max, is there anything that you would like to talk to us about or ask us about? from what you've
Yes.
seen lately?
I was thinking about what you were saying about a crossover sketch. What I would like to see is on UK, basically a phone, basically Stormer and Trump on the phone with their advisors. And you'd see the sketch from the British point of view with Lammy and his advisors on UK. And then on live, you'd see the US point of view with Trump and his advisors, and use the audio from the previous one. So, and basically you'd get a double treat because you'd see basically the same sketch twice, but from a completely different vantage point. I think that would be a good way to acknowledge that they're both on the same night.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but like I used to read those choose your own adventure books where I would love those. Those were some of the favorite books I would read as a kid, where I would go and I'd be like, all right, I'm going to choose this path. And then I would skip to page 72 and then like go down there. And then I'd be like, well, what if I went and took this path? So I think that's a really fun experience you can get from watching a show sometimes where you create these worlds. And obviously they do this in like Marvel and DC all the time. But I think that the crossover is like an emotional process for people where you get very attached to characters. And it's like seeing your school friends at camp or your camp friends at school. You're like, whoa, you're not supposed to be here. And I think that you can get that with SNL US and UK. So it's a great concept, I think, for a sketch, Max, and I absolutely love it. I would love to run a couple questions by the two of you, if that's okay, because we do have a pretty jam-packed mailbag that we should get to before the end of the show. So we'll go through this right now. And let's go to, while we're talking about SNL UK, Ian, I think this was you who asked this one. You asked who we'd like to see host UK in the future. And I'll just throw this out that I would like to see one more American or Canadian host SNL UK before the 8 episodes are up. I think that we want the show to feel very British, and you can have Irish hosts and all of that, and it could be very fun to have that mix in there. But I also think it was really cool when Tina was there interacting with them the same way in the States that we get a British host coming over, like we saw with Josh O'Connor earlier this season. So for me, that would be really cool. I doubt we're going to get any of the current cast members or any more show alumni. But for me, on my bucket list for the season is like one more American and potentially someone else who has also hosted SNL US before, just to get that in the mix. Haynes, what about you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel very much the same way. It's a tough question for me because obviously there's plenty of crossover with Hollywood and the big films and shows. But I obviously, we want SNL UK to be UK, and I think they'll lean into that. I hope that they lean into people who are really kind of crushing in that UK scene alone, not just on that larger Western stage. People that I don't know about and haven't heard about. So I hope that they do that. I think that the show will flourish in that fashion. I mean, it needs to be about those those people and that lifestyle. So let it be British and Northern Irish, I guess, since it's UK. But I really hope that we're not always seeing like big names that I mean, not just American names, but it'd be nice to not just see big British names that we know because they're in the new Game of Thrones show or something. I'd love to be able to go and watch an episode of SNL UK and know that I'm learning about someone who's part of that pop culture and not something that I have any knowledge of.
Max, also curious. Go ahead.
But when I saw that they were having SNL UK, there was only one host I wanted, David Tennant. I'm a huge Doctor Who fan, and I love Doctor Who spoofs. The Curse of the Fatal Death for British Comic Relief still makes me laugh. And I would love to see David Tennant host with cameos from the previous Doctors, like Peter Capaldi, Matt Smith, etc. Maybe even bring Tom Baker out. and I just like that would be my dream host for UK.
I think that totally makes sense. I mean, Ian, I would love to know, like, are we going to get a musician to potentially do double duty? Will they do double duty in the UK? Would we get an athlete? What types of athletes would potentially host in the UK? I think those are all interesting questions. I know you asked the question. Is there anyone you're hoping to see over there?
As far as people I'm a fan of in the UK, like Diane Morgan or like Tom Brady, I would like to see. I think Aziz Ansari lives in London, so that'd be cool to see him. Either him come back to US or host UK would be cool with me. I miss just seeing him in anything.
Yeah, that's a great point. Would love to see that. Let's jump over to the US. I'll ask you both one more question. We got this question from, I don't know how to pronounce this, Hurusovsky, who asked, which rookie impressed you the most in this batch of US episodes? So a lot of talk about these 5 rookies. Was there any that really stood out to you from what we saw in the Connor Storrie, Ryan Gosling, or Harry Styles episode, where you're like, you know what? I'm feeling pretty good? Because there's a couple that I'm thinking at the top of my head.
What are we
Haynes,
doing here? What's
that
the
one?
goal here? Oh God, Jeremy, I want to see him have a cold open, but not political. Interviewing someone as far politics as you can get, but with all the political bambast. It was one of my favorite Weekend Update this season.
I agree with you. I think Jeremy's a huge standout. Haynes, I got to think the other one's probably Veronica.
Absolutely. I mean, especially through the second half of the season, she's just been coming on so strong. You know, a lot of action in pre-tapes. You know, where there's obviously a lot devoted to that. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I mentioned Jeremy earlier as a standout, and Veronica would be the other one that's obviously, I felt like, just really been getting a lot of impactful time lately.
Ian, you're going to Vegas right now. You got to put your money down on Veronica or Jeremy for winning Rookie of the Year. Which one are you going to do?
Oh, it's tough because they're both who I was going to pick, but I guess I'd probably say Veronica. I think we've seen more of her, especially with the pre-tapes with Jane that she's been doing. I think that's kind of bringing her more into the spotlight. But they both impressed me these last few episodes with their Weekend Update features. That bridesmaid or the maid of honor thing Veronica did was wonderful. And Jeremy's Tucker, as you guys all said, was phenomenal. I was so impressed. I was like, this is great. Where's this been? You know, like, why are we seeing this at the end of the season?
I can't wait to see what's going to happen, because we're going to put out a poll as we get towards the end of the season to do an official, or I guess our unofficial, but our official version of Rookie of the Year. And we want to know who people are going to pick, and 5 more episodes to go to get that coveted award. We shall see. But Max, I appreciate you. Always such a pleasure to hear from you.
If I could just say one thing that I'm wishing for in this season, I want to see more Goo Goo Man. I'd love to see another Goo Goo Man sketch, and then have the Goo Goo Man appear in the season finale, played by Will Forte. I would love to see Will Forte as the Goo Goo Man.
I love that so much. I also think there's nothing stopping the Goo Goo Man from going over to the UK. I mean, we don't know who the Goo Goo Man is, so it could be something that makes its way over there as well. Ian,
John,
always a pleasure
please.
to
That's up to the Goo Goo Man.
That's a bridge too far. Ian, seriously, great to get to hear from you.
Yes, it's been fun as always. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to the next time and the next few episodes of SNL US and UK.
Yeah, we'll catch up next month. So thank you guys. Talk soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Haynes, let's bring back our old buddies here to join us for the next portion of the show. Casey Killingsworth is here. Casey, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me back, John. And I'm excited to talk about this run. So let's get to it.
Yeah, Casey, we had an historic run this last month. We had 5 SNL episodes to talk about between 2 UK and 3 US. So how do you feel with the last month of Saturday Night Live?
Well, what I'm feeling is, a sense of, intrigue and renewed optimism with both versions of the show. Because really, I mean, I don't want to yuck anyone's yum, but I'm just glad to be past this run of, as a guy myself, I'm just glad we're done with this 3-episode run of hosts that I personally consider to be kind of overhyped pretty boys that, get
You weren't
high on.
booing in the audience, Casey. That wasn't you.
No, I'm glad we're past SNL US just getting by on the host's energy and charm, and I'm glad we're moving past. Look at me, ain't I cute? Tee hee hee. And I'm glad we've moved on to the UK show, which is actually this bold, new, fresh, exciting thing. They're taking a lot more chances than the US show. It's full of new, young, hungry performers who've got something to prove, and new writers who aren't afraid to take all these chances they can and swing for the fences and listen. And I'm glad to see some new people in addition to the same old people we've been seeing on our side of the pond who've been at this for 10, 20 years. It's time to it's really time for SNL US to step up its game. I did like Jack Black's episode last year, and I'm excited to see what type of energy he'll bring to his 5-timer episode, and I'm excited to see what Coleman Domingo can bring after that. And I think SNL US really has no other choice but to match the freak of its UK counterpart, so to speak, and see what they can do that's new and different. And I'm sorry I haven't been in the live chats for your UK hot take shows, but just the timing conflicts of it all. I was working then and
Don't
couldn't
worry,
see it
you're
live.
good.
But I have published a blog with my review of Tina's episode, and I'm working on my review of Jamie Dornan's episode, which I hope to have finished and published by tomorrow.
That's great, Casey. And whenever you can check out our coverage, we always do appreciate it. But do you have any questions for Haynes or I, or anything you want to talk about from this last month of Saturday Night Live?
Well, I think I've pretty much said my piece, and we're on a bit of a tighter schedule. So I'm just curious to see if there's any fan questions you guys want me to answer.
Sure, let's do it. Absolutely. And I love your take, by the way, about, SNL UK challenging SNL US. So now that we're going to have these double header nights coming in, it may be even more obvious how much one show affects another. So we will see what comes up there. This one comes in from our friend Manette, who says, is there a path for Cam Patterson to end the season on a strong note? What should he be doing in these last few episodes of season 51? So we talked about rookies earlier. Haynes, is there something you would like to see from Cam the next few episodes to potentially salvage the season for him?
So I'm sure there's this is like a life lesson. There's always a path forward, right? There's always a path forward. I think I would say this, it feels like we really haven't figured out what he can bring best on a regular basis to sketches. So I do think the best we've seen of him so far was as himself on Weekend Update. So maybe give him another shot to bring a unique character to the table there, and see if he can impress. It doesn't feel like folks are writing with a lot of intent for him right now. So I say, Cam, grab the bull by the horns, write us just a killer character to that you can get onto Weekend Update. Show us another great show us a really great character that you've got in the bag somewhere. Grab the bull by the horns, show us what you got, and I think that could go a long way.
Casey, let's pretend like you're Cam's agent. What are you saying to him right now so that he can do something with these last couple months?
I'd say just you got to come up with a new character or just a specific update thing, and hope you really hit it out of the park and just make it unique to who you are. Make sure it's something that's within your voice that can, air on SNL and play to their audience, which is going to be the tough part, because really no matter what happens with Cam on SNL this season or by this time next year, if he's still on it, he will always have that that Kill Tony crowd. He'll always have his audience pre-SNL to play to, and they'll always have his back. At some point, they're going to be like, "Hey, man, you're like Shane Gillis. SNL didn't need you. You didn't need them. You're doing great on your own." But I just, let's just hope he comes up with something that makes him stand out, but, doesn't feel too watered down by SNL's internal process to make him stand out as himself. And, whether it plays to his, fans from Kill Tony or not, it'll be a good thing for his career to break out with one standout bit. But he'll always have something to fall back on, but it should be a worthwhile thing for him to break out and to come up with something that makes him break out to SNL's audience and lets him show us who he is, and that the show feels he's worthy and can let Cam be Cam.
I just don't know how badly he wants this. And if he does really want it, and I was him, I would have done a class at the Groundlings between episodes and not, maybe publicized it, but gone out and do some sketch comedy in practice, because I just think he needs reps. He's the type of performer that he seems like a really hilarious guy. I think if he's on the podcast right now, he's cracking us up. Like, he's a very funny person. I just need him to show that on the show. And I think that clearly there's no path for him at this moment to play into type, but maybe playing against type and having some sort of character, as you said, Casey, or just trying something that just be a little bit different, something that we wouldn't expect from him, from seeing him on Kill Tony with his persona and his stand-up persona that he can't do on the stage. I'd love to see him just try something. My understanding is that at the beginning of the season, there was a couple sketches. There was like a game show sketch that he was very much a part of. That didn't make it to air, but I would just love to see, like, at some point in the next few weeks, can we find a way? Can we find a path for him? Is Coleman Domingo's episode going to be his episode? Is it going to be one of the May episodes? Whatever it is. And we had this with Jane Wickline, the conversation last year, and then we got Tiny Baby Shoe, and it was like, all right, at least she tried it. And if she's going to be saved, this is probably what did it. So I'm wondering if we will get that moment from Cam this year. That is something that we'll all be watching for. Let's take one more question, Casey, with you while you're here. Last season, this one comes from Nick. Last season, we had PDD writing sketches, and we had their pre-tapes. This year, we have Ben on the cast, Martin writing and doing pre-tapes, and no John. Do you think this is a net loss or net gain for the show, Casey?
Well, it's hard to say. It's a little of both. I mean, I think it's what I would consider a loss is that with Ben by himself, he's kind of occupying the same space as Marcelo and Pete before him, where he's like the new cute young goofy guy who the chicks dig and is just there for the young people and just there to pander to the general audience's taste and what the show thinks they want to see. So we're kind of losing some of the spark with Ben, and people are starting to turn on him. I think the gain is that we're getting new short films with Martin Herlihy that are just pure, unfiltered, his voice, his sense of humor, that are a lot better than a lot of the things he did as a member of Please Don't Destroy the past few years. So, and he's even his stuff's a little divisive, as strong as it is. But I think we're gaining something that's coming out of Martin Herlihy that Ben and John were kind of making him hold back on. I'm not sure what's going on with John. I mean, Weekend Update's still pretty much the same, so it's hard to see what he's been contributing to it.
He hasn't been involved in any sketches on Update. They just they used some old characters he was involved in, so we got those like additional credits. But he hasn't been involved in the show this season.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a loss because he can't. There's no noticeable change in US Update. So, I mean, we've gotten some good stuff out of Martin, but with the other two, it is a bit of a net loss.
Yeah, it's hard to quantify. Haynes, how would you put it?
I have really similar but slightly different thoughts than Casey. I think it'd be easy to call it a wash, but you also have the Martin Herlihy short films, which I love. I really like them a lot, even though Lies didn't hit super hard for me. But I love these, and I hope we see a lot of them moving forward. And I very genuinely miss the PDD sketches. I love that tone. And I love them in the recurring setting. There's something that feels warm, like coming home to that same setting. But Martin's films have a very similar tone. They're almost like PDD shorts. And so as much as I hate not to have Jon around, I feel like we get an extremely similar thing that kind of fills that same space. Plus, of course, we got the gift of watching Ben try and grow in these variety of sketches. So overall, I would say it is a slight net gain.
I think I'm at net loss right now. I mean, I'm at a loss for figuring out what Ben's place on this show is. I think he's had some wins this year. So for me, I think he's kind of a Mikey type where he writes for himself and he has his own sketches and he could fill that straight man in a sketch, but Mikey's blocking him. So if Mikey departs, then maybe more of a place for Ben next year. With Martin, I always thought that he was the most dynamic of the three, at least that popped on screen. He had like a very unique voice to him. So I'm appreciative that we get him in his own sketches, but they are so rare. Like they're way less frequent than what we were getting before with the PDD sketches. So for me, like I still feel that the game plan feels very thrown together for what the future of them was. And I think one day, obviously, we'll get the full story of how this developed in the way that it did, but it doesn't feel like it was exactly as thought out as maybe some other decisions that they made on the show was. So we will see what happens. But Casey, thanks for answering a couple questions with us and joining us and giving us your thoughts. Tell the listeners where they could check out your blog.
I usually post it on all my socials. So X and Threads and Blue Sky and the SNN Discord and certain other pockets of Discord. You can find out what I'm reviewing there. And so it's the current show, US and UK, and I'm still doing season 33 as part of the We Heart Hater podcast with Deej, where we're doing that in documentary right now. So if you want updates on anything I'm doing, I will make sure you see my latest blog. I'll post it where you'll all see it.
Amazing. Thank you, Casey. I appreciate you, and we'll chat next month.
Yeah, you're welcome. Let's hope Cam and Coleman can come up with something that, matches the freak of SNL UK and, let's hope those two together just lights a fire under the US show.
Absolutely. All right, buddy. We'll talk soon. And Haynes, maybe Kate McKinnon pops up in Coleman Domingo's episode with them being former sketch partners. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Final pairing we have joining us here tonight. Happy to bring in somebody on the street. Jared, where are you, buddy? Do we got you?
Jared on the street.
All right.
Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
I can't hear you though, but I will. Was able to hear you before. Let me try to go back out and come back in. Yeah.
No problem. Thanks, Jared. Let's bring in Victor, who's going to join us for this part of the show as well. Victor, what's up, buddy?
Hey guys, glad to be here again. I hope you like my I'm in picture mode, but like my name there, old hat
love
there,
it. Nice.
2024, yeah, and my Tom and Jerry shirt, rocking it all, and been doing something interesting with my Instagram story. I hope you guys like the songs I've been representing for you. I gave you fish, Haynes. I give you fish. I hope you like that. I gave you Justin Taylor.
Thank you. Love it.
Oh my gosh, I didn't see this.
I can't wait for y'all to check it out. It's gonna be great. I gave everyone a song. It's great. And I'm so excited. I'm glad I did it.
That's
Can't
very
wait.
kind,
Can't wait to check it
Victor.
out.
Yeah, I'll definitely check it out. Haynes, you have to come back to social media to see that. So
I know.
Also, a bigger appreciation for Haynes because that's how you liked my me vibing with Michael Longfellow. So really appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, let's try and get Jared back in the show. Let's see if we can get him here. Jared, do you have us?
Yep, I got you. Do you got me?
I got you. Where are you?
All right, live from the French Quarter.
I was gonna say, it looked like I saw that Iron Gate. I said, "That's New Orleans, baby."
Yep, only place SNL ever did a live road show. Yeah, so I'm down here in the French Quarter for a conference, but I didn't want to miss the patron feedback.
Well, that is wait, we lost you for a second. I just want to make sure we do have you back, Jared. But I didn't realize we had such a large audience there in New Orleans who were excited to hear from us. So happy you're on the streets. If you see any other SNL fans walk by, make sure to bring them in the show.
You got it, man. You got it.
Yes, for sure. Well, Jared, why don't I go to you first to make sure that we can get as much as we can from you. So how have you felt about this last month of Saturday Night Live?
I've really enjoyed it so far. I think it hit its peak with Connor's story with that monologue, because that could go very well in the history books. U.S. hockey team wins the gold medal. Then there's some controversy and the women feel snubbed, but then they go on SNL and there's some reconciliation. So could easily see SNL potentially in a history book. Then I think it went down a little bit with Gosling. I really enjoyed, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the episode. I just feel like with him also, because his Papyrus 2 was cut, right?
Papyrus 2 was cut in the previous Gosling
Yeah.
episode,
And Beavis and Butthead 2 was cut. So I feel like he has so much lore that didn't actually make the show. So there's that. And then I feel like there was another little bit of a step down to Harry Styles. Don't get me wrong, I liked the episode. I just didn't think it was extraordinary. So that the Irish dancer sketch made me laugh quite a bit. And SNL UK, I think SNL UK is off to a solid start. I haven't been able to watch the second episode just yet, but I really enjoyed the live action Paddington Bear, and major props to the costumes and props department for executing that pre-tape.
Yeah, very, very cool. Victor, what about you? How are you feeling about SNL over the last month?
These last few episodes were so long ago, but I'll try to remember what I remember. Connor's story, I liked. I was surprised because when I first heard of Peter Ravery and saw that he was played an accent, I thought it was like legit. So I thought because usually SNL like to bring in people with accents, so I thought it was legit. Like, of course they're gonna bring in the guy with the accent on here, but like, oh, he's that good of an actor, so okay, whatever. But he did really great, and he's like very charming too, which I really appreciate. There's like one video that I see keep going around to hear other guys with them dancing. I see that like twice a day every time I go on Instagram, and I watch it like 8 times every time I check it out. And Ryan Gosling, I love him, but his episode it's probably my least favorite out of his bunch, but still some things in there that I appreciated. And Harry Styles, another like fine outing. It includes some of the things that I liked. And SNL UK, I've been loving it. And I'm glad to see people are also excited of what the new update anchors of Anya and Patty are bringing, because it's such a breath of fresh air. Because I love Che and Joseph, but like seeing new anchors is just like, oh, heaven, like it's so great.
Yeah, it seems like we've been getting rave reviews for SNL UK, and I haven't seen one person been like, "Man, this fucking sucks." Like, it not at all. It's been really cool to get to see that. But Jared, do you have any questions for us or anything that you wanted to talk about during your time here?
There is actually. So this upcoming show with Jack Black and Jack White. So I want to point out that I called this a year ago. So I wrote this down on SNL by the numbers for Jack Black and Brandi Carlile, April 5th, 2025. My comment: Elton John and Brandi Carlile were amazing. They really brought the energy, and it was great for a Jack Black hosted show. I still think it would be funny to have a Jack Black and a Jack White episode. Great combo. but more so for the names, but it would be hilarious. So I want to point out I called that one a year ago.
You know what? I'm giving all credit to you. That's very incredible. I can't say exactly how.
Thank you, Jared. Thank you so much.
But all I can say is tomorrow it will be even funnier. But I cannot explain what that means yet. So just put that in your back pocket. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But when you know, you'll know. It will be even funnier tomorrow.
You bringing an April Fool's joke to us a little early?
Nope. But trust me, someone did one of the funniest things you could do with this whole situation. Victor, any questions you have for us?
Yeah, as I mentioned, I am loving SNL UK. However, I always think like ahead of time. So, and this is kind of like a three-part question, but I'll just start off like what I'm trying to say here. If SNL UK does not do great, do you think SNL US will bring in all 11 cast members, and well, not all, but like a good chunk of the cast members and writers onto SNL US as maybe cast members or writers? And if so, do you think it would be a good idea? And would that be like awesome to see if again SNL UK doesn't do well?
I think it sounds like a great idea on paper. I just think in practice, you're talking about moving people from their lives. You know, that it's easy, not necessarily so easy to do that. I don't think we've had a British cast member since Morwenna Banks. So, you know, it doesn't seem like
Mommy
something
Pig.
that they would. Who?
Mommy Pig.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yes, you're right. Sorry, I thought you were saying that there was another one that I missed. But yes, I think that there's always a possibility. It would be a real shame to cut these cast members' careers on the show short because clearly they are so talented. It seems like we could get a lot of them for 4, 5, 6, 7 years on this show. So my hope is that we're not in that situation, but anything's possible. It's a new show. The network has to back it. It seems like the social numbers and the ratings are great right now. So as I would just say, let's take this day by day, week by week, season by season, and hopefully everyone continues to grow on the show. Haynes, do you think it's at all possible what Victor's asking?
Well, I don't imagine like the entire writer's room or the entire cast getting swept up or anything like that, or even a large portion of it. But I would say this, if SNL UK completely tanked and there's particularly like one just absolute standout all-star that like the producers are going, God, why is this show crumbling? If we could find a way to support this person, this person's just crushing so hard. Absolutely. That I could see, SNL US poaching that person, bringing them in. But obviously, just once you've done this kind of work, those writers, all those writers on SNL UK, if they want to write for I don't know if we're supposed to call it SNL US or just SNL now. Can I just call it SNL?
You can call it whatever you want. I mean, I call it SNL US sometimes, and then
SNL
people get mad at me.
SNL us.
SNL us. Yeah.
All of us,
Very good.
yes.
Very good. So yeah. But obviously, if you're writing for SNL UK, they're familiar with your work. Those are folks who could obviously potentially be on the writing staff over here. I totally see that as a possibility, but I will say particularly, like you were saying, Victor, if the whole thing just really tanked and we just had like a killer, outstanding all-star that was just dominating every week, and you knew that people were tuning in just to watch that person, especially American viewers, and we're going, man, and the American viewers are watching on Peacock every week because this person's just killing it so hard. Absolutely, I could see that person getting an invitation to SNL us.
Right. And you would think that just through 2 episodes, the most likely candidate would probably be Jack Shep, mid-20s, all over the show. Feels like somebody who could do a lot of different roles in an SNL US episode versus some of the other stars we've seen so far, George and Annabelle, who feel more they have their specific voices and we're going to lean into them and make this episode, build the episode around them. Jack feels somebody who's maybe more moldable to the US format. Again, only 2 episodes in, so we're still getting to know these people, but that's what I would think would be the most likely case. But for now, I think that these people have earned their place over in the UK, and we'll see what they can do there and just see what the show develops into. Jared, thanks for coming to us from the street. Appreciate you. Definitely a first for the Patron show.
Heck yeah, I'm excited for these upcoming episodes and the UK ones and discussing the aftermath of this season. It's been great so far, and I'm curious how we're going to go up to the finale and with the storylines with Cam and Tommy. We'll see if they have like you mentioned on the with Casey before. Do they have a tiny baby shoe moment that saves them, or who knows? It's just a lot of fun. But yep, I'm gonna go have me some fun on Bourbon Street for a bit.
You have a blast, buddy. Enjoy yourself. Victor, always a pleasure as well. Thank you for joining us here tonight.
Yeah, great to be here, and I gotta do what Jared did, because I am gonna go to prom soon. I might just do it like, hey, everybody, I'm on prom. You know, try it on Saturday, so I can't do that, but you never know. But yeah, great to be here as always. I'm glad you had.
That would be wild.
Yeah, but since they're crazy. But thank you so much for having me. Check out the Not Ready for Popcorn Players podcast. I don't even remember where I was last time I was promoting, but we have Zoolander out. We literally today we released Meatballs, the Bill Murray movie, and then we're gonna go to superhero land and talk about Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man. So yeah, check that out, and I'm very excited to eventually bring in some folks that you guys are very familiar with and some new friends that I'm have trusted you guys to give a very warm welcome to the podcast. So check it out.
Well, I appreciate both of you for joining us here tonight. Jared, always appreciate the great comments. I don't know if you noticed, we have another great friend from the UK who writes these like really long comments to us on all of our UK shows. So I'm expecting a little competition right now between you and him, Jared. So look out.
Battle.
Yeah,
sounds good. We'll be besties. We'll be mates soon enough, I'm sure.
Exactly.
And I'm glad no one's taken my role as live chat legend. So that's all I care about.
No, that's for sure,
Yeah.
Victor. You are the live chat legend and perfect moderator for the show. So I appreciate you both. Thanks so much, Jared, and thanks so much, Victor. Haynes, this was a blast.
See you guys.
Thank you for doing this with us. Can we do some rapid fire of the remaining questions before we head out for the night?
Sure. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
All right, so let's throw some other things at you. This one comes from Iravi on Instagram, asked us, as a rookie, what's more important, impactful appearances or total screen time?
Impact, hands down. Because listen, if you're on a lot and none of your appearances are memorable, you're really just creating a list of reasons why you shouldn't be back. If you're barely on, but people love it every time, you're making a clear case, and the Lorne, the producers, Lorne, the writers will all hear it. You're making a clear case that you need more opportunity. They can't look away from that impact.
I agree with you. I would add one more factor that I do think screen time can save you. So I think that if you aren't having impactful appearances, just being in the show enough on a regular basis can have you tread water. Yeah, you could just like find your way and then eventually get those impactful appearances. I think there were moments last year where Ashley was sort of treading water until she finally blew up. So I think that isn't, it's definitely a factor that I would consider. Our friend Fred was on the show before. He sent in a question: which of the first year rookies that weren't asked back do you think would have meshed the best with this year's rookie class? I would have loved to have seen Emil with this cast. I think that he's somebody who really popped last year. It was a shame that he was let go. I don't know the exact reason, and I know wish him the best, but I think it would have been great to still have him a part of the mix.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I think for some reason I could see him working really well with Tommy. I feel like they both have this very kind of laid back vibe that I could see just playing well together as buds on the show. So yeah, I was going to say Emil as well.
Our friend Cactus Jamal asks, do you ever wonder how SNL is going to cover something all the late night shows did? So I can certainly relate to this, as I've been working with Late Nighter now for a while and getting into watching all the late night shows every night. And it definitely changes your perspective on at least the topicality of the cold opens with, okay, well, Kimmel and Colbert, especially, like and Daily Show, like they really get into politics. I think Daily Show is the most interesting. If you're ever into SNL and you've never watched the Daily Show, it's another great way that they do comedic politics, is something that you may have seen in old eras of the show. And certainly it can affect the way that SNL addresses things, because you don't want it to be exactly the same. However, there's so many things that happen during the week, Haynes, at SNL. It's really hard to be focusing on what other people are doing.
Yeah, I mean, unless something drops on like Friday or Saturday, any big news is going to get beat up by late night. That's just part of the rub. So sometimes I do wonder to myself, especially if it seems like multiple late night shows have kind of taken like a similar angle, and I'm going, oh gosh, does it feel like that's the kind of only tack we can take here? What's SNL going to do about this? But in general, I don't worry about it because the writers are so adept at creating just like out of thin air. I never doubt that they can rework something late in the week if it feels like it might already, if it's going to turn into an overly redundant take. I have full confidence in the SNL writers' room.
Completely agree with you. Our friend Kobe on Instagram said, what are your hire and fire predictions for season 52? So that's something that I always like to put a pause on until we get closer to the end of the season. I think the best place to go for this type of discourse is our by the number shows that Mike does, where he does his power rankings, and you could sort of see how those develop because they really help track who SNL might keep around into next season. He has become like a Nostradamus at just finding like the bottom people there and being like, all right, not looking so good for them. So I would say it's hard to give you a clear-cut answer right now. I think these 5 episodes, with it being still 1/4 of the season left, there's a lot of people who can change their outlook for next year. So let's circle back to this question next time we get together for one of our feedback shows when we'll only have a few episodes left. Our friend Ajax was with us earlier, said, how soon into the Jack Black, Jack White episode do they acknowledge SNL UK, the cold open? Does James as Trump or Pete as, or Colin as Hexeth even do another like ultra meta line? Is it possible that we get this moment from James as Trump where he's just talking about the show and he mentions everyone watched the British one a few hours ago?
Yeah, I think that's a great point that he brought that up in the question. I think 100% that absolutely could happen. In the cold open, it seems absolutely like something that Trump would reference. Oh, they're making fun of it over on the SNL UK now. Last week, you saw that. My buddy Keir, he does whatever I ask, or whatever. There, I could absolutely see that happening in the cold open. But if it doesn't happen in the cold open, I would bet that we do not see it until Weekend Update, and then I'm sure that it would get mentioned during Weekend Update as some part of some joke with Colin or Che.
That's also true. We did a lot of talk about crossovers with SNL UK US tonight about a cold open potential of Trump and Starmer. Is it possible that we'd get some sort of Weekend Update crossover at a certain point where we could have some Anya and Patty and Justin Che in something, and maybe like a Weekend Update joke off? Is that a possibility down the road? That
would be great. Love it.
That would be very, very cool. Joke off that starts on one show and continues on another show. Our last question comes in from our friend Noel here, who says, many SNL UK cast members have a theater background, and it definitely shows in their sketches. Is that something that the OG SNL should be looking for more talent in addition to the usual avenues of UCB, Groundlings, etc.? What do you think?
Well, listen, I'm kind of a sucker for a rare big musical number. Not that all theater is musical. And listen, I mean, none so more than the Mulaney musicals. I mean, those are amazing. But obviously, this is a deliberate choice, by SNL UK, I think, to give a slightly different shape to their production. And overall, I wouldn't want our SNL to take a super hard turn in that direction. I like where we're at right now. And, they've pulled a lot of stand-up influence onto the show. I think we let this current iteration kind of run its course before saying, oh, we need more experience from folks who have done like, dramatic theater as well as comic theater and stuff. Although, listen, I could see how bringing in, folks who have that kind of experience. I mean, like particularly actually with, both comic and dramatic experience could bring like a stronger contrast to bits. I can envision like maybe more seriousness, less breaking, like more dryness to the delivery where we're letting the words of the writers like do a little more of the work. And that's a totally different type of comedy. And I could see that coming more from a place of theater. But right now, I would say I don't think we need to start, pointing in that direction.
I don't think we need a whole cast of it. I do think that, we talk about the Groundlings and UCB as being the minor leagues of gutting to SNL, where you practice your sketches and you get them on the show eventually, and you feel really comfortable with the process. I think that musical theater is probably a cousin of that, where it's not exactly the same, but it has a lot of similarities where you have enough experience being on stage, this high wire production, that you can then transfer over to the show and have some of those sketches in the show. So I would, if I was building a cast, I would have no problem with having 2, 3, maybe 25% of your cast having a musical theater background. I wouldn't want it to be the whole cast, because then I think you run into sketches that feel very theatrical and over, produced maybe in some senses, which I think maybe we got at some point a little bit in like the Cecily 80 Beck era, like where we had some of those theater sketches happening every single week. But overall, I think it's a good idea to throw them in the mix. So those were our questions. Patrons were fantastic tonight. Questions were amazing. This is one of my favorite feedback shows we've done all season long. So really appreciative for everyone joining us here. Haynes, are you excited for this weekend? We got Jack Black coming to the show, potentially a big 5-timers moment for him. This feels like a long time in the making.
I am. I mean, I just think that there are some artists that put so much into their SNL performances, and I've mentioned Jack White as being one of them. I just feel like when he comes to play, and this is, so I'm really looking forward to this. And of course, Jack Black is just, he's a guy that's been around the block many times at this stage in his life, but he's such a joyous, wacky character, obviously intensely wacky. Emphasis on the intense. So this will be a very fun episode, and but absolutely looking forward to this one. It's going to be fantastic, top to bottom, and not just because of the hilarious Jack White, Jack Black, naming situation.
Yeah, the only downside of this headlining duo is that we aren't talking about the potential of what a Jack Black 5-timers episode could look like. I do expect this big musical moment at some point, because he always brings it to the show, that aspect of things. So that will be exciting. But because we had the Marty Short 5-timers club moment last year during the 50th season, where all of these people showed up, I don't think we're going to go to the 5-timers club, but I'm sure they're going to do something great to give him his jacket. So that will be something I really look forward to this weekend. Before we get there, here on the SNN, we will have one more show happening. That will be on Wednesday evening, where I will be there. I'll be stepping into the Mike Murray role. So I'll bring my haiku to the mix to talk through all of the numbers and data from episode 2 of SNL UK. So we'll go through all of that on Wednesday. And then Saturday night, double header night, we will have the Riz Ahmed episode that I will talk about on the after show, and then we will have the Jack Black episode that I will do the hot take show late at night. We'll have our roundtable next week and by the numbers, so a regular week of Saturday Night Live to talk through, and a lot happening over the next 8 or 9 weeks as we go through these remaining episodes and wrap up the entire seasons for both UK and US. So Haynes, thank you so much for joining us here tonight.
Fantastic. Loved it. All the patrons were amazing. Fantastic questions. Just love engaging with everyone. We just had, people were making great points. Very insightful questions. Just a really fun thing to do top to bottom. So awesome being here.
Yeah, there's nothing more cool than getting to talk to all of you. So if you are ever thinking about joining one of these shows, you have the opportunity by going to patreon.com/the SNL Network, and we'll put out a form for you to fill out and sign up to join us on these shows. We do them about once a month, and we love getting to meet new listeners of our show. If you want to support our show, you can always do so by subscribing to the podcast, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, and following us on all social platforms at the SNL Network. I want to thank Late Nighter for being the presenting partner of our show here tonight, everyone in the live chat for hanging out with us for almost 2.5 hours, everyone who called in, and Haynes for being a great co-pilot for this episode. So on behalf of everyone here at the SNN, my name is Jon Schneider, and we will see you next time, everybody. Have a good one.